Welcome everyone to the FATED Connections Path of Exile Community Podcast, episode number 104. Today we come to you with another great episode with my lovely co-host and two guests from the Path of Exile community. There's been a lot of discussion about the Crucible that we're all busy playing right now. And it's a great time in general in Path of Exile, but the league specifically has a lot of complaints arising in the community and stirred up a lot of critical discussion. We had a video from Cute Dog explaining a lot of the problems that he says he sees with the current Path of Exile gameplay loop. On top of that, we also had a video by Captain Lance going over the problematic case of uniques in Crucible and why chance orbs suck, and he calls them the quit the game orbs. And around those two videos there's a lot of discussion about the state of the game in general and specifically Crucible, and we have a lot of sentiments picked up from the community. And oops, hey, I wanted to pause it. Wait, I wanted to stop it. Okay, that didn't work. Anyway, music is gone. Welcome everyone. We're gonna get in Balor Mage and see what he's up to. How have you been, Balor? Welcome.
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Recently farmed up a headhunter. So now I get to blast and do the blasting things.
That sounds good. I recently actually made some currency for the first time this week, and I was able to benefit off of people jumping off of the Poison SOS build. Got a really cheap Covenant, and now we're going to get animate Weapon Poison, and hopefully going to be able... I mean, I was able to take down some bosses already just on the pure physical version, but I imagine the Poison version to be even better than Poison SOS because of the added clunk. You know, SOS only have the base chaos damage to work with that they get off of Abyss Jewels and the 29 added chaos damage support from the Covenant, whereas animated weapons have a lot of base fizz just off of the fact that they're animated weapons from Lingering Blades. So I do hope there to be a little bit of a better top end, but we'll explore that. Before we go into all that, we're gonna get in our guests. So we got a familiar face coming in. Welcome, a Deedledoo. How have you been? How's it going?
It's been going okay, I suppose. Just trying to grind out, normal HCSSF stuff and fighting with my chess piece to link. Literally 30 quality chess piece, right? Over 2,200 fusings over the last 2 days. No 6 link.
Damn.
I had to fight. I had to liquidate like 800 alterations up to fusings just to get my 5 link back. I thought I was going to get stuck. I was like,
Damn. I better not talk about how easy my 6 link was on my 30% quality Covenant.
I've linked things easy, like trying to, like, what was it? The totem, the stave and totem only league. I was going for a 5 link on a staff and I hit a 6 link in like 20 fusings. I know that it's RNG and sometimes you can get unlucky, but boy, does it feel bad when you get unlucky. Oh my God. So I just said, you know what? I'm done with it. I'm going to go farm up 1,500 fusings and just bench it. I know it sounds terrible and feels terrible to say on a 30 quality chest, but I'm tired of messing with it.
Yeah. I feel you on that.
I only use fuses on like day 1 of the league, hoping to get lucky. And if we make it to day 2, I just save up 1,500 fuses and bench it every time.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Or just buy it linked.
Yeah.
Well, and we got another creator coming in. First time appearance on the podcast, but been a long time creator and a long time Path of Exile player. Please welcome with us, Scottaria. How are you doing? Welcome. And first things first, you got to explain why Scottaria? What's the
well, Scott's actually my middle name. I grew up and everyone called me by my middle name. I have no idea how that like started or why. It's just I've always gone by Scott and never by Kevin. And then it dates back to my old Clash of Clans days. How the name arose. I thought I was naming my village, but really you're just naming your character. I was thinking like a Utopia type of hybrid. I don't know. Just kind of grew.
Okay. For me, it always sounds a little bit like a pizza place. It's the Scottaria.
It does, actually. You're right.
I've actually had people call me things like Scottaria, which sounds like a venereal disease. A number of different things. And that's why anytime people come through my chat, I'm like, hey, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. I get it.
Yeah, I think Balor and Deedle know exactly what you're talking about with people mispronouncing their names.
Oh, Jesus. Do I ever?
That's great.
I'm used to it by now, though. It's just like, whatever. Call me what you want. Just don't call the cops. That's what I say.
Oh, yeah. And so, Scottaria, you've been playing Path of Exile for a long time, but you've been a partnered Twitch streamer since before you did Path of Exile content, right? Like, where did you make your name?
Correct. Originally, I started streaming, I think it was back in 2012, maybe. It was Clash of Clans. And during that time frame, that's back when everyone used to play, but no one knew how to broadcast it. So the supply and demand of content for it was really working in my favor because I knew how to get my tablet on the PC, as well as being a part of some pretty well known war clans at the time and casting and whatnot for different like Clash of Clans wars. And then from there, I actually ended up like retiring from that scene, like the competitive Clash scene, and went to Magic the Gathering for a while. And then from there, Path of Exile. And now it's my
nice.
Nice.
Well, for how long have you been playing Path of Exile? Like,
since Abyss League.
oh, way nice. That's when I started streaming Path of Exile. That was kind of like I streamed a little bit the end of Harbinger, and then Abyss League was the first league start that I actually streamed.
Yep. My buddy My Survive introduced me to it, and I just remember, and the reason I know it was Abyss League is because I was getting so annoyed by those abysses in every area, and being like, why are these constantly in every area I'm going to? I was still trying to wrap my head around the concept of leagues and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about that. That's going to be a reoccurring theme in the podcast. We definitely talked about it in the last couple of podcasts, and it's something that comes up every so often, is that the game doesn't really do the best job at letting people know how it works. And there's also been like a Reddit post this past week where people complained about the login screen again, giving people a completely non-idea about like which league should I play, like what are these modifiers, solo self-found, ruthless is like all very, very tough to tell. Well, tell us a little bit about your league starts, because Balor and I have already talked about our league starts at length in the past couple episodes when we talked about the league, but we have no idea what you guys play. Deedle, maybe you want to give us a little bit of a rundown of what you went with and whether you're still sticking with it or whether you changed plans already on the way.
So I went with something totally out of my comfort zone, and I league started Righteous Fire Juggernaut. So no, I've played that build a few times before since I think Calandra, but it's a comfort pick. I know how to progress it very well. I know it's very tanky. There was a few things like few masteries and few Crucible trees, Crucible notables that looked like it would be really good for it. So I was like, man, it's like a no-brainer. I need to go with this. So that's what I did. I league started Righteous Fire Jug. Currently still alive, level 97. Like I said earlier, trying to 6-link my chest, working on upgrades. My gear is actually in a pretty decent spot. I found a fractured +1 all skill gems amulet, and then crafted it to have +1 fire, and then cleared suffixes, and then just multi-modded life and a res for now. I'm probably going to Ashling Slam at some point once I get the cojones to do so. And I got a pretty nice fractured fire damage shield, and then rolled +1 fire on that. So even though I'm on a 5-link, like I have like a level 25 Righteous Fire, and I have a bit more, like this guy has more damage on this RF than some of my previous 6-linked mid to end league Righteous Fire guys. So it's going pretty well, apart from the chest piece just not wanting to link.
Is it Crucible?
No. The only like my Crucible tree on my weapon has +2 to socketed spell gems, so I threw my auras in there. I have Malevolence, Purity of Fire, and Determination. Yes, I run Purity of Fire on my RF. And my shield has like chance to avoid shock, 100% chance to avoid shock, 30 life, and then a little bit of resistance. I haven't really gotten too lucky with my Crucible tree. The best thing I have is probably the Call to Arms, which is pretty nice. I mean, +2 level of socket spell gems is also pretty good for upping your auras. And actually, the chance to avoid shock is very, very nice too, because I don't care about the downside as a jug because it's a 100% chance to avoid being shocked, 20% chance to be frozen. It doesn't matter if I get frozen because I'm a jug and I take unstoppable. So even if I get frozen, it doesn't do anything. And if I find a storm shroud, that means that I could be fully ailment immune, all ailments included.
That'd be great. Dude, that sounds really amazing with the fractured +1. I got a +1 skill gems randomly with just like some half decent stats, and I was able to sell it for a divine in the trade economy. And like +1 skill gems amulet, like all skill gems, like non-specific, is actually quite uncommon, right? That doesn't really happen that often. So when you drop it and then it's on a fractured item and you happen to actually fracture that exact mod, that's like all the stars aligning.
Yeah, my fate, like once I ID'd it, my face just was like, what? Huh? Whoa. Did that, what? Hold up a minute. Yeah, it was pretty nice. So I rolled it to have +1 fire, but before that, I hit +1 cold. And like people in chat are like, you gotta keep that. You gotta keep that. I'm like, I'm not keeping it because I'm not playing a cold skill. And I don't have any plans to play a cold skill. So I rolled over it, and everybody thought it was crazy. But I finally hit the +1 fire.
Damn, what a roller coaster of emotions that must have been. So,
Yeah.
Scott, do you want to tell us a little bit about your league start and what you've been doing so far?
Sure. I got a little bit greedy this league start. Normally I go a little bit safer route with CA Occultist or explosive arrow ballistas and whatnot, but this time I saw that you can get 2 additional arrows from the passive tree, and I was like, let's get greedy and go tornado shot. And it panned out. I mean, I definitely got lucky fairly early on with some pretty nice drops that kind of helped me advance the build, to at least get all my watchstones within the first couple days. Because the ultimate goal of the build is to be able to just blast maps and then kill bosses. Like killing bosses is like my favorite thing to do in the game. So being able to generate those bosses in order to run them, I wanted a fast character that can do it. I do feel as though I might have used up my RNG the other day because I had an apothecary drop. My elegant shield had the vendors for unique Crucible tree on it, which I split. Both of which were bricked, so that didn't really work out in my favor. But and then my Enlighten hit 4. So I'm pretty sure the rest of the league, I'm pretty like nulled out on RNG. But it at least set my character like past that point where I can now comfortably do pretty much all content with it. Which is exciting because I love being able to play Deadeye Tornado Shot. It's such a fun build.
Nice. Any other noteworthy accomplishments? What kind of like Crucible tree are you, bullshit Atlas tree are you leaning into?
At the moment, I've been just crafting spine bows. I've got a pretty decent one right now. I was able to get the +2 fractured arrows onto it, and then spam essences and got a Crucible tree with the 15% increased fizz effect. So it's about 720 EDPS, and just continuing to push that envelope a bit with different Crucible trees. And I'm going to be exploring into the geodes a little bit more soon, just to kind of, play them and, experiment with them.
Well, that's
But
really all you
overall,
can
it's
do with
mine.
them.
Yeah.
The experiment with them. I was so disappointed when I ran my first one. I mean, I had read on Reddit that you can just walk past them, but I thought there was at least like some sort of interesting interaction with the monsters, like some sort of fun to be had killing the monsters, but it just feels so terribly unrewarding to even like engage with them because they're so strong and they don't give you any rewards. Like even if you have additional rewards on the geode itself, you know how you can roll, like I don't know, looking at my geodes here, you get rare and unique Crucible monsters have a chance to drop a melee weapon with a Crucible passive skill tree, or weapons and shields found have 10% chance to be fractured. It's still like it still feels so unrewarding even with those mods. It's really odd, sadly. But yeah, I mean, they're the only way to modify the trees and to play around with the trees and to actually progress your item potentially into one with a good tree. So that's what we're gonna have to go with. Actually, right before the podcast, I got one of the one of the uniques from the league, the helmet that comes with a tree. And damn, the tree couldn't be worse, like, even if it tried.
Same. I got that same helmet and it was terrible.
It's every single node it has is like meh at best and like detrimental at worst. I have like the helmet is like it requires level 43, 49 strength, 49 dex, and I actually got a 20% reduced attribute requirements as a tier 3 node. It's like, why? What for?
It requires less than nothing.
Actually,
Yeah.
I got that same node on mine. Yeah, you're right.
Really?
Yep.
Do you also have the Ice Bear and Ball Lightning projectiles in a circle as a tier 5 node?
No, I didn't get a tier 5 node.
Oh, I got even more scuffed than mine.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I was excited about that one, that power before the league started. I was like, I want to make a ball lightning that all comes back. Turns out it doesn't actually come back. It's got a duration and a maximum distance, and you have to pump the absolute crap out of the projectile speed to get it to actually be able to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Which is completely counterintuitive.
Not what you want to do with ball lightning at all.
Yeah. Yeah, Big Duck said has an entire video out on it where how he was super hyped to play that specific build and then like just decided no. I mean, there's no reason to do it.
You know what unique I think is cool though from this league is the staff.
Hey, you fixed it. How did you do that, Ballard? Sorry for interrupting.
I just waited. I didn't do anything. It just started working again.
It just works. And now it's broke again.
Yeah, it's frozen again.
Yeah, but this is even friendlier face than previously. I like
True.
it.
Yeah. But yeah, the staff that can roll like all level 30 supports on it, it's high variance, but it seems like if you get the right things, like the one I dropped almost hit really good. I got level 30 Inveterate, level 30 added lightning, level 30 added chaos, and then the rest were like meh. I got burning damage, but if you get a lot of flat, but you could also get like Archmage stuff. You could get a lot of minion stuff. It comes only as a 1 socket, and then all your links are on the Crucible tree. It's high variance, and most likely everything you find is going to be trash. But there's a possibility of just that jackpot. Like this is where it is. This is cool. I don't know.
Kind of sounds like the Forbidden Shadow almost.
Yeah, like it's gonna be real hard to get a good one, but a good one might be great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get level 30 flat, like a lot of level 30 flat gems, like added cold, added lightning, added chaos, that's a ton of flat.
Oh yeah. Well, the Covenant is level 29 added chaos, and it's like better than 2 woke added chaos gems together.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with the added lightning too. There's a level 30 added lightning on Thunderfists, and it gives a ton of flat. So I got both of those on the same one, but I mean, I'm probably not going to use it as it is.
Well, maybe for leveling.
It is it's a level 52.
Oh, okay.
Staff. It has a ton of spell damage and mana on it too, and crit to spells, and then 150 life per enemy killed. That's basically the stats on it. So it has a decent amount of spell damage and spell crit and stuff. So if you did get something good on it, could be usable.
I got actually a good shield for my build that I played last league that I wouldn't ever play again. So last league I started with a Blade Flurry Slayer, and I wanted to do a Poison Blade Flurry. And now, just in the map before this podcast, I got this shield with this Crucible tree, where first node max life minus all res, second node blocks spell damage, third node increased poison duration at the cost of increased poison duration on you, which is fine because I want to be immune anyway, and then 100% chance to avoid bleeding for 20% chance to be poisoned, which is also great because you want to be immune to poison anyway, and then if you're immune to poison, then this gives you the 100% bleed immunity, but then trigger a socketed spell every second while channeling Blade Flurry or Charge Dash. And I'm like, no, no, I won't trigger a spell every second because I won't be using Blade Flurry or Charge Dash anytime soon.
You're not gonna make a Charge Dash build? Come on, man. Charge Dash Trickster?
Yeah. Well, maybe if the character named Kim Charge Dashian is still available, but I doubt it.
Hey, well, it's not gonna be now that you said something about it.
True, I should have kept it for myself. Dude, no, that must be gone. What? It doesn't exist? Okay, logging right now.
It's yours now.
If no one else is faster. Oh, okay. Oh, got it secured.
Nice.
Okay, wait, Balor dropped out. I'm gonna hop him back in, I guess. Tempting dev browser, right? Okay. Oh, different browser. How's that working out, Balor?
Who knows? The other one worked right at the beginning.
True. Well, if you guys have any like noteworthy items or trees or something like that, you can also screen share in here, and we can bring it up on the screen if there's anything that you would want to share. Otherwise, we can directly go into our main topics for the day. Oh, wait, first, I got 2 public service announcements now that everyone who's listening is there. We got a new RSS feed for this podcast since I made the switch to the new host, Anchor FM. And some people drew my attention to the fact that the most recent episodes are not available on Apple Podcast. And that is true if you don't search for Fated Connections again. If you're on the old RSS feed, then there's no new episodes adding to it anymore. But if you search for Fated Connections, then there is a different version of the podcast that has all the past episodes and now also gets updated with the new ones. And that's where you can find the podcast. Because of the new RSS feed, it split the podcast into 2 on some platforms, such as Apple Podcasts. So yeah, if that's where you want to be listening, it's there. It's just you have to search again. It won't appear in the feed that you already followed. And then another public service announcement, because I saw that a lot of returning players or new players are playing this league, and there's no in-game information at all regarding this topic. Most people are unaware that you don't need to complete any Uber trials in order to access the Uber lab. That is a thing of the past, but the game doesn't tell you, right? So if you've been struggling to get the remaining trials, and like some people are even in the global, the global chat channels for trial sharing and trying to get the trials, don't need them. You just need an offering, and you can directly do it after you get to maps. So that's important to know.
Yeah, that's been a change for several leagues now too. I feel bad for people. I actually had someone come in recently as well that were like, man, I still haven't found my last trial. I'm looking for Burning Rage. I can't find it. It's like you don't need that. You don't even need to do any trials. All you need is the offering. Go to the Aspirants Plaza and just log in, dude.
That's
bad.
I had one person do that, and I felt real bad for them because you're like more than a week in, they've been in maps, like they've found 5 trials. That takes so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the reason we got rid of them.
Yeah,
they could have just gone.
There's been leagues where I was like 96, 97 before I got my last trial. That feels terrible. Like you're mid 90s and just running Uber Lab. Like there's so much power left on the table there. It's terrible.
I don't know if I would be really upset if I just found out, because I feel like it'd be a little bit more relief. Like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to find this last one, or however many I have left.
That's true.
Maybe
it could be kind of one of those like exciting welcome surprises to people that are returning to the game.
If
Like
that was
when
me,
you type /passives and you realize, oh, I still didn't get my Pioneer reward.
if
Yeah.
it was me, I'd be excited and happy if someone told me that when I'd only found like 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But if
true.
I had 5 and I've had 5 for the past like 4 days, and I've just been like waiting for this one, and then someone tells me, I'd feel bad.
That's true.
I'd not be pleased.
Damn. Right. And yeah, that's the PSAs that I had written down for this podcast. There is like one video in particular that sparked a lot of conversation. It didn't really bring up too many new points, but did a very good job at summarizing some gripes and presenting the point of view of the top-end softcore trade player who wants to blast. And that's a video by a small community streamer who goes by the name of Cute Dog. And he talked a lot about the friction in the game that is currently there, about the issue that, he disagrees with the GGG handling of power creep and player nerfs, and generally feels that the game makes you do more to get less. And I think that's a topic that we want to get into. So I'll first ask our guests, like, did you experience friction interacting with the Crucible mechanic? Is the way that we interact with the Crucible mechanic, what are your opinions about that? Is there anything that you felt, Scott, that was particularly shaping your opinion of the experience?
Well, it feels like it's sort of a GGG thing to start off a league super overtuned with the new mechanic. This is an occurrence we've seen multiple times over the last several leagues, so it's not surprising that the way it was on release. I think my biggest, and even going into the league during the teaser trailer when they're announcing what it's going to be about, I was both excited about the idea and the concept of the Crucible trees, because I personally love to craft. It's something I enjoy doing, but as a mechanic itself, I think I couldn't quite pinpoint it until recently to find the right words for it, but I think replayability really kind of covers it, in the sense of, like, I feel like once I've got my tree, then I'm literally, if I'm not in trade league, then like, what am I doing with this league? Like, am I wasting time sitting there channeling this thing to get one shot? Or like, I feel like the replayability is just not quite there, outside of just printing currency if you have a well thought out strategy.
That's fair. Is there any things that you want to say before we go over the points that I wrote down from Cute Dog's video, Deedle? What were your impressions interacting with the league, and how do you feel? I mean, specifically because you're presenting the SSF point of view here.
It's very grindy for sure. I don't really have a issue with the mechanic being grindy. That's kind of why I play SSF, because I like to grind things out and not just jump straight, to the tippy top after, a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I feel like I have a goal set now that involves Crucible, and it's kind of along the same thing as Captain Lance is going through. I kind of want to do the lightning conversion SST with an Emperor's Vigilance. And for me personally, in SSF, it's going to be a very, very hard farm. And I may not get it done, but it's a lofty goal that I want to set forth to like keep myself more engaged. And I know not everybody quite looks at it like that. They kind of feel like it's grinding for the sake of grinding. But in my opinion, I do like to have like those long-term goals, even if sometimes it doesn't seem like they're quite finishable, just to have those to look forward to and set forth on. Like, I feel like that's good for me personally. I know a lot of the player base doesn't really agree with that point of view, and it's probably a hot take for most people, but
I don't have a lot of solo self-found experience, but would it be acceptable to assume that the hardest part in solo self-found is going to be getting enough scours and chances?
It probably will be, yeah. So one thing I was trying to do also, though, and I'm still kind of doing this as well as farming scours and chances. So while I was farming fusings to get my links, which I did mainly through expedition, I have a full spec expedition tree. So when I'm buying fusings and jewelers from Tujin, I'm also buying jewelers and chances and scours as well. And I've been trying to save those up. But another thing I'm trying to do to also kind of put as many eggs, so I don't put all my eggs in one basket, is do as many steel kite shields as I can in the hopes that I get that vendors for a unique steel kite shield. Because I don't believe, I should have probably double checked. I don't believe there's another base that's a steel kite shield, right? I can double check.
I think that one is guaranteed if you hit it.
I hope not.
Let me see. I'll check real quick.
Someone posted on the Reddit too. The odds of that node is like 1 in 4K, I think.
Really? Damn. Just the Mahoxatol's Machination, the Ultimatum Shield, is on the same base, which can't be chanced, or can't be vendored for that, for a unique if I get that. So between doing the Scour chance and that, I play a lot each league. So like I said, maybe I don't hit it. Maybe I just need to do the lightning conversion SST with like a titanium spirit shield or something. But if I get lucky and I hit the Emperor's Vigilance, then awesome. Then bam, let's go. So it's just something that like I kind of set a goal for myself to just keep myself a bit more engaged with everything else that's going on. I dropped an Omni on my first Exarch, my Quest Exarch, so I'm probably going to try to use that with it. I've never made an Omni build, so I'm also trying to farm out attribute gear and Omni gear as well. So we have a few different things and a few different avenues here that we could potentially take it.
I feel like setting yourself goals is really important, and that's like something I see a lot of people struggle with, specifically from my community. A lot of people have played a lot of Sanctum, and now that Crucible is here, and there is, if you're like kind of disengaged with Crucible because you don't really like the mechanics or the reward structure that we're going to go into specifically a little bit in a second, then there's really nothing else for you to do. Right? Unless you latch onto what the mechanic has to offer in terms of item creation, then there's really nothing to aspire to do this league other than, hunting that stuff. There's no real new content. Sure, there's the end game forages, but there is not really a reason to be able to kill them or to engage with the monsters there at all, as you can just walk past them and use the crafting bench. And the rewards seem very, very meager directly from that. So yeah, TLDR, very important to set yourself goals. You mentioned the chance orb video, so the chance orb situation. Should we keep that for in a little bit after we talk about the league mechanic itself, or is that something that we should directly go into?
It's all related, right?
Yeah.
The only reason we're doing chance orb problems is because the league mechanic is got glaring holes in it that doesn't seem like was thought about.
Yeah.
It's not like we haven't ran through this before with like scour chances. People have been trying to scour chance like headhunters and things like that since back in the day. I'm sure not as much now, like with so many other avenues to get headhunters, but there's been a lot of people, or like the Eternity Shroud memes where everyone wants like Elder Shaper influence stuff. That's a unique that doesn't exist. A Space Hunter or a certain unique, not a lightning coil, but insert unique here that needs to be a certain influence.
Yeah,
it'd be pretty cool with that if they kind of changed it similar to how either fusings or chaos orbs, where you can just sit there and just spam on it until it hits a unique. And even if it does take 1,500 or 2,000, you're also not taking like, was it like 4 different clicks for 2 different orbs in order to, where this one just keeps rolling, similar to how you would just spam click fusing orb.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah, it's the actual clicking part. At least that's how I was seeing one of the big issues, because the detriment it can have on your hand.
There is absolutely no reward that the game could possibly give me that would convince me to chance scour something. This game has already wreaked havoc on my hands. I'm literally wearing compression gloves because of this game exclusively. I don't have the problem with other games. I would not chance scour for any reward they could give me. Just period. At all. Not happening.
It is rough on your hands and fingers and your digits, your joints. It definitely is. I don't know where I seen it. I don't know if I seen it before we were setting up in the chat, but someone mentioned having just one orb that's like a scour chance. So it's just like one click and it goes scour chance, kind of like a like a fusing orb. You just click it once and it's scour chance. And then
Yeah,
you
I
click it again,
like
scour
that
chance.
really easy without screwing up anything we've already got. Make it an orb that doesn't even drop and doesn't even exist, and it's just a vendor recipe when you vendor them together.
Yeah.
And now I can buy 10,000 of them and 10,000 of them and be like, vendor, spam.
Bam. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Scottaria already said, like, make it spammable just like Chaos, then at least you don't have to have it for individual clicks. But yeah,
Just hold the
that's like,
shift button down and
that's like part of the issue. I mean, there's 2 issues here. Like, A, chance op sucks because, you know, you have each attempt needing 4 clicks, and you need a lot of attempts in order to hit something with chance ops. They're way too weak, and you just are playing a way too large numbers game, and the standard deviation is too high. So even if you like ruin your hands clicking 3, 4, 5,000, you're still not guaranteed to get any meaningful progress. And this is exacerbated by the league. This is made worse by the league because normally chancing unique would be a sort of vanity goal that you could choose to pursue. You could also choose to not pursue it, like Balor, right? But then with Crucible not having, and this is the second big part of the issue, of the compound issue that Captain Lance presented in his what do you call it? Quit game orbs, orb of quit game, or something like that. Yeah, Crucible doesn't have a good way of interacting with uniques. There's no great way to interact with uniques. The most efficient way to get a good Crucible tree on your item, if you choose to play with a unique, which you have to because Emperor's Vigilance is like the best shield for SST. If you want to make an SST build, you do have to get that unique with a decent tree. Like, specifically, you want the SST node, which is also super powerful, which, I mean, it just makes it mandatory if you want to play that skill because it's so strong, and you be missing out on so much power if you didn't have it. That forces you to actually chance a unique because that's the only way you could go about it.
This goes off the rant that I went on last podcast. Like it's just we're just now seeing the problem that I was ranting about last podcast, which is that they ruled out usage of all uniques, no matter what uniques. Because if it's a rare, expensive unique, you would need to buy 100 of them to be able to smash trees together or do this chancing bullshit. And if it's a common unique, you still need to go and buy 100 of them and then give up all of your usage of the league mechanic in the map to use them over and over again. Buy 100 of these fucking end game maps and run those. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know why they made it to where you can't just Crucible a unique.
Like,
at the Crucible
drop with trees like everything else, and I should be able to spam any normal shield and smash it in with the unique of the same kind. That just doesn't make sense to do it any other way.
As long as the same base, or like the same base type.
Shield for a shield.
You're right.
Same as
uniques only works with the same unique?
Yeah.
The exact same?
The exact same one.
Unique.
Right.
Not another unique shield. It has to be another Emperor's Vigilance.
Yep.
Yeah, rip SSF.
Yeah.
Well, that's super weird because
It's
then I really
completely
think
it doesn't
And I
make
really
any
think
sense.
you should be able to do the unique items just the same as rare items, because once you got a tree on the unique, right, then you can progress it just like a rare in normal encounters anyway. But the problem is, like, uniques are already inherently at a disadvantage because you can't imprint or split them.
When looking at builds for this league, anything that requires a unique shield or weapon, I'm just not building. If the build has a unique shield or a unique weapon, I just don't play it this league. I'm just not doing. I don't care how powerful it is. I'm not dealing with it. I'm just gonna skip that. Not a build for this league.
I'm also under like the belief that like things like the current league should be really powerful and access to a lot of power, and because it'll end up going away at the end of 3 months anyway. So it should be something that everyone looks forward to, getting really busted items that they can just either heavily nerf or completely remove at the end of the 3 months.
Agreed.
If it doesn't go away completely, you can worry about balance when you're like, oh, I want to add this to the main game. You go, okay, well, this is too much power, but we like the idea. So we'll bring all those numbers down. We'll add it into the base game in a weaker set. Easy, no problem. Do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. This ties into two things that I wrote down that I want to talk about. One was the comment that pretty much said exactly the sentiment that you just presented, Scott, was Baldur's Side Swag in my chat saying earlier that the new mechanic should always be the most enjoyable, the most interesting, and the most rewarding thing to do in the league while it's the current thing. And I agree. And in the past, this was mostly accomplished by having the current league give out all the rewards of the other leagues as well, basically. And since they dialed that back and they moved away from it for good reasons, right? We talked a lot about it, that the best rewards from a specific league should only come from that specific league. And, GGG does listen to player feedback, and they did implement that a while ago already, but the current league specific rewards need to be amped up to give the current mechanic its rightful place in the spotlight regarding how rewarding it is. It just feels bad when, like, in current Crucible League, everyone is doing other things but Crucible. Like, it feeds so much into Beast League, right? And people need to do other things to make currency, because Crucible itself is just not very rewarding. And another thing this feeds into is a thing that Cute Dog brought up, actually, where he talked about how the game consistently makes you do more to get less, and also GGG's handling of power creep versus player nerfs. And all the nerfs that we had in the last couple of leagues were offset or like counterbalanced by borrowed power, right? Like, every league we got nerfs, and you get power creep from the current league rewards. Sentinel, Calandra, Sanctum all gave you power on the player that did not go core, that didn't last with us. But the nerfs, right? The nerfs, they stay, but the fun toys that we get to play with, they actually get taken away. At least for now. I mean, we don't know. Maybe these leagues will return.
Does anyone know when the last time a league went core was?
Arch Nemesis, kind of, but not really in its state. In that state, anyway. But
other than Arch Nemesis,
I had high
was
hopes for
2 years.
Expedition.
Scourge came back as Beyond Expedition, I guess.
Yeah, I would say Expedition.
It's been a long time.
That was 315.
That's 2 years ago.
3 years ago.
2, I said, but yeah,
Oh.
almost 3, I guess. Close.
Yeah,
Anyway, above 2.
Yeah, it was 6 years. It was 6 years, 6 leagues ago.
6 years. Not quite that long.
I mean, I think Crucible will end up being a core mechanic. It has the vibes of something that can easily be implemented. That's not super. I mean, it obviously needs to be altered and changed, but it seems like Crucible seems like something that should be attached to an actual mechanic.
I agree. And it seems like that's way.
Yeah, it can be easily just part of the end game crafting portion of your character.
They say that they haven't looked at it, and they don't know whether it's going to go core, but it seems like they do have the intention for Crucible to go core, like they would want it to be. because it seems like, some of the mastery nerfs, for instance, like some of those notables or masteries found their way onto Crucible trees. So it does seem like it was intended to kind of take a place of certain things that were being taken away. So I do believe that Crucible will probably go core, even if even as a dialed back version.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't think anything is going core for the rest of PoE 1.
I could see that too. Sure. Just because it's more maintenance, more things to upkeep on the base game while they're trying to get PoE 2 ready. I could see that on the flip side.
Hopefully that means PoE 2's gonna be sooner than later.
Oh, I know this is relatively speculative, but I very much expect to be playing a PoE 2 beta by the end of this year.
Yeah, I think beta will be available Q4 of this year.
Yeah.
Like a public beta, not like
open beta.
Right.
Like we'll all be playing it and making content on it and everything by the end of this year.
At latest, early Q1 of next year. At latest, but I kind of don't see that happening.
I think, and this is like very much hopium, but you guys remember how we got Beast League that didn't go core, then we got Incursion League that didn't go core, and then we got Delve that I don't know whether we've been told during Delve that it goes core or not. But then directly after Delve, we got Betrayal, and Betrayal brought back Einhar and Alva and Nico as masters, and like all the 3 leagues that didn't go core before it, all of a sudden are core and tied into a meaningful new system. Like they had their place, and it was really nicely thought out and came together really well. And that's what I'm hoping for with a number of the leagues that haven't gone core in the last years, and maybe even stuff like Synthesis that we always wanted to have a place in the game. Now GGG has gone and said that they're not doing any big endgame expansions similar to Conquerors of the Atlas or something like that before PoE 2, but we do know that they will reveal 3.22 or 3.22 at ExileCon, and we do know that GGG likes to amp up their hype by revealing like insanely huge expansions that we haven't seen before. Last ExileCon, we didn't only get our first look at Path of Exile 2, but we also got the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion teased, and were able to play it right afterwards. And that was massive, right? That was like 5 new bosses actually, 4 small leading up to Cirrus and Cirrus himself, and like the item crafting with the influence, the Conqueror's exalted orbs and all that stuff. So I do have big hopes that the next league is going to be a very big one. Maybe it's not going to add to the end game, but it's going to be some big changes coming to the game and some big implementations, and hopefully bringing back some old familiar faces or league mechanics. So you see chat saying Zana will bring it all back. I mean, it would also be super hype if Zana was involved somehow. Absolutely.
You brought up when they brought the new system. That was just a flashback to the old daily missions we had to do with like Varici and Katarina and stuff. You remember those?
Yeah.
I successfully repressed the memories of that system.
What was the one
on low life for 10 seconds without killing one of the guards?
Kill those bodyguards, but don't kill the target. Or kill the target and don't kill the bodyguards. Like, how do you expect me to do that?
Or the random Katarina missions where you had to escort like undead minions, and they would consistently spawn desecrated ground underneath you that degened you within like a second, because no one had chaos resist back then in the game. It was
the
like
Haku,
pretty much not mandatory.
Where you carry the totem on the back.
Oh, I forgot about that one too.
You know what I like?
The battle area.
The vegan fights, the cage fights were pretty fun.
Yeah, when Vegan just takes a dump on you and removes your hardcore character from the league.
Yeah, you could really die. Like if you died during that, you were dead. Like
A friend of mine actually dropped a mirror from Vegan, I believe.
Really?
that was really hype in HCSSF, or at least in SSF. I think it was HCSSF though. It's still to this day in his stash there in that Perma League. But yeah, I hope that doesn't come back. I also don't hope that we're ever gonna see any dailies again. Like, I don't want that fear of missing out, the feeling like I have to log in every day. That would be not what I want for the game. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would like it actually, but
I mean, we have dailies now. We just get them saved now, which is nice.
Yeah.
That was such a good change when that happened too.
Absolutely.
So you don't waste your because you don't feel pressured to I need to go do this right now. Like you could save them and be like, I'm gonna run a string of Carrick missions, or at the time it was Zana, or
like I want to do 25 Zanas tomorrow. Sweet.
Yeah,
haven't done them in a while.
Or I want to go build 14 Alva temples. You could do that.
Well, that's a great way to get Cortex too for SSF players too. I would imagine just keep flipping Kirax.
Problem is, if you're trying to do it for an invitation, like if you want to do Feared, you can't witness it.
Well, he offers it in his vendor inventory pretty often too, though.
He does sometimes, yeah.
A friend of mine actually has this very jaded take. It's like he doesn't like a lot of the leaks that they've been doing in past years, and he always looks through it through the brown tinted glasses, where he says, like, Delve is just glorified Elrion missions. Heist is just glorified Haku missions. They just reskinned the mechanic, and people call it a leak now. Yeah, I know it's a little bit of a reductive take, but I always found it very funny, and somehow there is some truth at its core, right? But then again, how many basic mechanics can you have in an ARPG?
I mean, right? Abyss was just breach that moved, right?
Yeah, just linear breaches instead of radial, and with backtracking, of course.
Yeah.
Which that ties back into commenting on the Cute Dog video. One thing that Cute Dog also mentioned a number of times is that in the past, you would actually make progress, right? For example, Expedition, he said, was quite tedious, implemented a lot of extra steps because you had to pick up the currency yourself, but you would always make progress doing Expedition. And then he goes on to go through the leagues and says that Scourge was actually the first league where you could actively waste your time by engaging with the league mechanic, because you could actually set your progress back by destroying your item with the Krangle mods. And he compares it to Harvest, where you had always some sort of progress towards what you're actually grinding towards, and then goes on to compare the new leagues, Arch Nemesis, Calandra, and Crucible, which all have not really felt like they're rewarding your time, and with Calandra and Crucible actually being able to backpedal your progress. Right now with Crucible, Cute Dog goes on to say he did 1 day of farming and trying to do it SSF, didn't get a single geode in 6 hours, and then tried different methods and traded for the stuff. Said he did an entire day of not progressing, ending up with the same Crucible tree on his bow base that he had before. And he also felt at the same time he was not playing the game. He was just playing trade all day, and he'd still not make any meaningful progress towards the goal. And I kind of, in my 2 cents for that take, I've concluded that I think it's good if there is high risk, high friction sort of elements in the league that give you uncertain rewards at the top end. Yeah, it can even be somewhat obscure, but there should always be some progress on the small scale that you make, right? That should not be the only thing that you're chasing for. There should also be, consistent rewards for engaging with what are arguably some of the hardest enemies in the game currently.
They are. I mean, I've never fought Ubers in HCSSF, but I did Uber Cortex, but they are definitely super freaking tanky. and they hit like a truck. I'm glad I started the RF jug, because even being a super tanky RF jug with like 88 fire, 81 cold, 81 lightning, capped chaos, 100,000 armor, I'm still sometimes just get chunked, and it's like, whoa, what was that? And they take
It sounds
ages to
like
kill.
that's where you should be immortal inside a normal map. Like, you just shouldn't be at risk with those levels.
Everything outside of like sub fizz overwhelm, and even that I'm trying to build towards like a little bit of fizz taken as to try to protect myself against that. And don't ever click 100% overwhelm on an expedition, because you will get murdered. It's kind of true for any build, really, but doubly so when armor is your main defense.
Yep.
Yeah, they're ridiculously like tanky and overtuned though.
But ultimately, about the Crucible allowing some form of minor victories, I guess you could say, like progress toward like at the end of a 4 to 8 hour, however long you have to play that day session, you can walk away saying, "Oh, I've gotten X, Y, and Z upgrades from the mechanic. Not necessarily I got these upgrades because I just farmed Defile Cathedral all day." I think that kind of ties into the idea of just the lack of replayability, in my opinion. Because if anything, that offer, like let's say ritually, for example, where you continuously farm it and you're actually getting progress, because you could be getting items that aren't normally available to you. There's a lot of great fractures that you can get. There's items that can actually upgrade your character and help you progress. Whereas this one is once you have your tree set up, and you're basically done with it already, unless you're in trade league. I think that it does, however, enable a lot of new and interesting builds. Like we were talking about earlier with Spectral Shield Throw. I have some ideas with Tectonic Slam, because I love that skill. I've been trying to make it really viable for a while now. And now with the addition of the Crucible trees, that's possible. I think there's that side of it, but from the point of view of being able to just sit there and progress something, it's just not there, I don't think. Plus all those items, those geodes and all that stuff, if you are on trade, it's like 10 chaos for it. So why spend 8 hours doing this when I can just get it for 10 chaos? Albeit that does take away from the whole purpose of playing SSF for those SSF players out there.
Yeah, I've just presented a lot of points, and I didn't ask for one specific thing, so you guys could like bring up whatever you wanted to talk about. But I'd like to quickly know from you, what do you first of all, do you agree with the notion that a lot of rewards in Path of Exile nowadays are very uncertain, like very grindy, and then on top of that there's an uncertainty? Even if you put in all the time towards it, you're not guaranteed to get it, and you can actually lose progress with a lot of the new stuff. Well, A, do you agree that that's the case? And B, do you think that should be the case? Or like, are you unhappy with that? And if so, why? Or like, how do you think it should be?
I'd say, yeah, I agree with that. That it is fully possible to go out, farm, and not make any progress, or even regress a bit. I think the issue is the fact that they balance mainly around trade, and not just around just trade in general, but around the top performing players in trade, like your top 1%, the 0.1%, whatever you want to call them, which in my opinion, I think is a mistake, considering the top 1%, or whatever you want to call them, are going to find the way to be OP and find the way to be top 1% consistently. That's what they do. They make these things, they do it every league, right? They're going to make their mirrors. They're going to make their characters super OP. It doesn't matter how you try to balance around them. The only thing you're really doing is hurting your average player or non-trade player by making things way more grindy on them. In which case, could be viewed as a positive to some people, but in most cases, your majority is just going to get fed up after farming for X thing or whatever their situation is, and either just quit or just be like, you know what, screw this, I'm done. I mean, I guess that's the same thing, but that's where I think that the main issue is the fact that they solely balance around the top players in trade.
It seems that way sometimes with some things.
I mean, obviously, I don't work at GGG. I'm not on the balance team. It's from the outside looking in, but it from my perspective and the way the game has been going, it definitely is. It definitely seems that way.
Well, balance changes, do you mean like drop rates, or like what are the changes that are
drop rates? The way, mainly the league mechanic and how grindy certain league mechanics can be, right? Like getting good nodes on your Crucible tree, or not being able to put Crucible trees on a unique and then smash it together with a non-unique. Those sort of things. I was more speaking in general, but if you wanted to like pinpoint a certain thing, risk versus reward, I
think that's a thing that they do quite often, is they balance around like the top people who are going to min-max something. But the thing is, the top people who are going to min-max your thing can make easily solo without trading 80 to 100 divines a day, not interacting with any league mechanic at all. Which means whatever we're able to do, we're going to be able to do anyway. I think balancing around is just stupid, because you stop everyone below that from having a good time, or you make their good time less of a good time, just to like make it a little bit harder on somebody like me. But if you make it too hard on someone like me, like this league, I'm going to mostly ignore it and then just pour 100 divines a day into buying the base that I want from someone who cares about crafting, because you've built the friction up so that for like somebody who plays 10 or 12 hours a day and is a degenerate gamer isn't going to get like overwhelming levels of power. Well, I'm just going to ignore it, right? I'm just going to ignore that. I cook random bases and throw them in dump tabs. I don't look at anything. And I make, I don't know, I'm probably only making 60 div a day right now, but I could be making more if I wanted to. Like, it's not like balancing around me or anyone above me is ridiculous. These things should be balanced for casual players.
I don't know if this, I mean, I'm not by any means an economist, but if they were to balance around like the casual players, if like essentially make these drops or these fusing or the Crucible trees and whatnot more accessible to the average player, wouldn't then the people who do pump out an insane amount, who play all day every day, then generate more and then flood the economy, making the methods that the casual player would normally do in order to generate currency now worth even less, because there's the market's at that point flooded?
So yes,
but then the top players wouldn't do that then, because it wouldn't be quite as valuable.
Yeah,
so like exactly the economy would self-balance that.
We start doing that when it's big and profitable week one, and then because it gets flooded, that gets overwhelmed, and then that becomes less worth our time, so we stop doing it, so the price stops falling. But that's only talking about economy, and while economy is something that I deal with a lot, and one of my favorite topics is economy. Like, I softcore trade till the end of time. I love the economy stuff. That's actually the thing that gets me the most excited about league starts is economy. But that's not what most people care about. It's not about economy. It's about fun. And if you were to let me say somebody like me was capable of pumping out, let's say, 10 of those vigilant shields every day, then instead of being worth 1.5 mirrors for a perfect one, it would right now be 20 or 30 divines for a perfect one, which brings the amount of people who can buy it from this little tiny minuscule 0.1% to suddenly 8%. And then in a week's time, Instead of being 20 or 30 divines, enough people have been pumping them out. Suddenly it's 8 divines now. And now the amount of people that can buy it is the top 35, 40%. And then more people get to play that build and have fun. And instead of it being like, but the economy, like it becomes more people can do the thing and then more people can have fun.
Well, I mean, yeah, that does make sense. It's just, and yes, the price will come down to 20 and then 8 and then whatnot. But the average player then might struggle to get to the 8 mark now that all their current strategies are kind of dwindling as well alongside it. And then that paired with the idea, the overall concept of an ARPG in general is the satisfaction of the grinding side of it in order to actually get to those items and versus readily having them accessible out of the gate. And I am a soft core trade player, so I do like that, getting that power quick. But if everything is so quickly accessible, I think it's something that we think we want, but not necessarily actually want. That makes sense.
Yeah, Chris or GGG have said something like that, where the players think they know what they want, but they actually don't know, or something like that. I think there is a place in the game, so this is my 2 cents regarding the topic. I think there's a place in the game for those rewards for the top end players. Some things should be ultra chase, some things should be uncertain and require you to engage with high risk, high friction stuff over a long amount of time, and that is for the top end players to have. But as someone in my chat pointed out, and I think that phrases it really well, is there needs to be a good mix of rewards during the main engagement with the mechanic, map to map basis, and then a big overarching goal to work towards. But right now we only have the big overarching goal, and that, because it's so gambly and can set you back and it's uncertain, ultimately feels like you could potentially be wasting your time, because besides that you're not getting anything out of engaging with the league, or not enough to make you feel like you want to come back to it all the time.
Yeah, agreed. That's a good point.
So here's something that I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about doing a bit more research on it and making a video, so maybe I'm spoiling something, maybe I'm not. Trying to think of how long ago it was, or what league specifically. I think it might have been Scourge League, but it was somewhere around that time. Back in the day in Scourge League, I want to say Scourge League, I'm not positive. There was a time for a few leagues where absolutely everything was profitable, and there was a proper functioning trickle-down that was working for juiced top ends, and tons of lower end investment stuff that was like profitable and fun. There was a time where there was a league where we were so excited about everything that there were like 7 different Alk and Go strats that work, and then like 15 different like Grim and Go level strats that worked, and then boss rotors were working, and invite rotors were working, and big juiced 100% delirious maps were working. And for the entire league, every strat that everybody, every player at every level was able to make a reasonably good amount of money at
they all
way
fed
different levels of investments. And at that point in time, yeah, we were all feeding each other, and like it wasn't like a case that 100% delirious super juiced farmers were just making everything. They were making specific things and having to buy other things from stuff that Alk and Go people were doing. So we were paying really high value for stuff Alk and Go people were generating so that we could generate these things. And like there was a time for like 2 or 3 leagues where like the entire circle of the economy for softcore trade worked really well. And then they took away all of the historic quant stuff from all of the league mechanics, and the entire top end, the entire top 80% of investment dropped off the face of the earth, which pushed every single person who was up in that area down into the lower investment strats where everybody else was before. Except those players who could do that lower level content at 6 times the speed you do. So it's no longer worth it for you to do which pushed everybody who was in the 20% there all the way down into Alk and Go stuff. And now they have nothing left to do. Because all the people who would have done super juice don't anymore because there is no juice.
It was like Jenga. They pulled the wrong block and everything kind of fell down.
This is the thing that a lot of casual players praised heavily. Oh, thank God they're getting rid of all of the quantity and rarity stuff, but it had this complete domino effect on the market, and now there's like nothing left to run. And I'm like, I tried to call it at the time. I tried to fight it at the time. I tried to tell people, especially casual people, I'm like, this isn't what you want. You should not be happy about this. This negatively affects you an alarming amount. And now it's been a few leagues and we're seeing that happen. And I'm just like, I tried to explain this at the time and they wouldn't listen.
Yeah, there for a while in softcore trade, there was a nice like trifecta between delvers, deli farmers, and actual orb, because you don't get orbs from actual juiced maps, so it was like a little trifecta going. And that was back when orbs were a lot more difficult to come by. Heist enjoyers really capitalized on that as well.
It was great because then delvers were providing like fractured fossils really well, and then we were fracturing 100% delirious maps at the real top end. And then like just below that, people were running 80% or 100% delirious maps, and then below that, people were running mirrored maps to generate orbs to give people, and then all those people had alks and scours and everything off on all their filters because there's could not do that. So we had to go buy all them, and so people were running alk and go maps, and grim and go maps were selling sextants at like 5 to 8 C a piece, and alks at like alks and scours at like ridiculously high rates because we weren't picking any of them up in our maps. So they were running all that sort of stuff. It was great. Like everyone had a level of do this for this much money, make this much return, and then you could be like, okay, now I can do this, and then you'd make this much return, and then it would just keep going.
Plus, it allowed players to kind of have a goal in mind as to how they wanted to generate currency. If they were a delve enjoyer, they can then have a path toward generating currency to continue doing what they're enjoying doing. Or if they're a delirium enjoyer or whatever it may be, it was a little bit more of a straight shot to highlighting what you can do to guarantee profits.
Yeah, it seemed that problem has come a little bit back, right? Like the delve is not currently considered the best way to generate resonators and fossils, right? Where do you get them from Tujin or something like that?
Well, resonators still mainly come from delve.
That's true.
But
they did.
You get a lot of fossils from other league mechanics, Tujin and Heist.
Ritual's a big one too.
Deli, but yeah, resos you primarily come from delve still. Which I often tell people who say they're struggling with currency, like go delve, get some resonators. Every Azerate node you hit has a direct correlation to chaos or divine. So you could just go buy resos from Nico, stash them until you have bulk. You could go invitation farm. Just set up a wandering path tree and just flip flop between like coves and Trop Island, or coves and what's the other good one that's attached to that's the bottom? I don't know. You flip flop with a wandering path tree, go in, proc influence, leave, go kill the boss on the 28th one. You could farm 2 to 3, sometimes more if you have a fast build, invitations an hour. I don't know how much invitations are selling for right now, but I'd assume a divine or 2.
There was something said in chat that I wanted to bring up. That's like a quick, refreshing little question, but I can't find it anymore. How long do you guys think people should need to play from start in order to acquire like 90% of the power level that the game offers? Do you think there's a reasonable amount of time investment to get to a reasonable point?
On one build or for like a league standard.
The question was specifically phrased like, how many hours should you need to play with 90% of the power the game offers? But so I guess you can interpret it however you want and answer to your interpretation of the question. And then we can respond, taking that restriction into account.
It's tough to say. On a league start scenario, I mean, it shouldn't take long for you to progress into your Atlas and your main build. But if you have like an OP build or like a secondary goal to go and, you know, farm Ubers or farm a specific content with a specific build, then it should take a little bit of farming. I don't think it should be a league-long endeavor, because most people don't have that sort of time and they're going to get burnt out before that happens anyway. And I feel like that would be kind of detrimental towards the game anyway, because if the same person keeps coming back and saying, I want to do this and I'm going to set this character up to go set this next thing up, which is going to be my cool farmer, whatever I'm going to do, but they never really get to that point and then they quit, they're going to stop trying to set themselves up for that and just get tired of it and be like, you know what, I'm setting goals, I'm not hitting that, and it's just getting frustrating rather than having fun. So I don't think there's an exact time frame because it's such an open-ended question, but it should take a little bit of time to get to a point, but not all league.
I mean, I actually absolutely agree. When it comes to like the actual 90% power, I think it's more. It should be how long it should take for you to get all 4 watchstones, or something where you can actually then, because a lot of times your game begins in the end game, right?
Yeah.
Once you have all 4 watchstones, you can actually start progressing whatever strategy it is you want to do. But 90% power for your character, that's something that needs to be like a far goal that takes a while to get toward and achieve. It's also dependent on what character you chose. If you want to quickly get to 90% and clear all in-game content, then just pick a meta build. If you want an insanely super powerful melee character, then that's going to take you a lot longer. So it's very relative to like what your idea of 90% power is and what it accomplishes. I think it's more about how quickly you can get to the point where you're now doing what you want to do versus the actual power of your character.
So I think that's way more important, because when I think there's this idea of like the level of power that we can get that a lot of people have that is not actually real. Because I would argue that I almost never, in fact, not once since Harvest, have even built a single character past about 75% of the available power. I've never made it to 90 since Harvest, because that level of investment is insane. Like, we're talking multiple mirrors in single characters to even approach close to 90% of the power that the game actually offers. Nobody does that. I think even trying to think about getting to 90% of the total power the game offers is an insane level of investment. Insane. I think it's far more important to be like, the content I want to run is this with this build. How long until I'm able to get to run that content? That's because most people are running around with characters that have 10%, not 90. And they're doing tier 16s at a really good speed, right? Like, that's the idea of 90% power. That's not a thing. It's when it should be, when can I get to the content I want to run?
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think the number 90% in this comment is like widely open to to interpretation by the person answering the question or like putting it into context. Because I think what's undisputably true is that we all think 100% build power is something that should never be accomplished in the time of a league. Like, even if you like completely put all your time, it should be like always that very end where towards the end, like you can asymptotically like approach 100%, but you'll never really actually get there, right? And so how I understood the question is like, how many hours should you need to get to a reasonable level of power that the game offers, with which you can do a reasonable amount of content, right? Like, but how far into the game should you be able to get to that point, right? And we would all agree that past that point, getting to 100 should be that like elusive goal that always is ever so slightly away still. Like you can't ever realistically get there, even if you put all your effort into it. But maybe, and I think the point that the question was trying to make, maybe like the average player shouldn't need as long to get set up to be able to do some things. But no, it was interesting to just toss that question in and to see how you guys would interpret it and how we would talk about it.
It's definitely a fine line to walk too, isn't it? Where like you need enough content in the game to aspire toward. But you also don't want to make it too far to lose the amount of people that can actually get close to the content that they want to do. It is an interesting balancing act to see how GGG navigates it.
It's probably one of my sticking points for about the last year, realistically, because I'm not a bosser. So I don't care really about Uber bosses or even regular bosses. I want to do them, right? Like it's not fun to me. I don't like bossing content. But it does mean that the top over the last 2 years, probably the top 75 to 80% of difficulty of maps that are actually like worth running have just been progressively removed and replaced with nothing. So this game has actually got like easier and easier and easier and easier and easier to reach the end for me, like almost every league for nearly 2 years without having anything replaced. Like I've got nothing. I've only been taken from and have received nothing for about 2 years, which is pretty rough.
No aspirational content for mappers.
No, none. Just taken away and taken away. It's rough. I'm hoping PoE 2 is a swing that fixes that.
It's gonna fix everything.
When we were discussing the cute dog video on stream just prior to this podcast, and we were talking about how the game forces you to engage over a long time, high risk, high friction, you get uncertain rewards, and it's somewhat confusing and obscure. Someone said that on the flip side, people are completing the entire game in just 1 week. It does make sense that grinding gear games wants to slow down people's progression. Do you feel your progression has not been slowed down, Balder? Because that's what you just said. Well, it gets better every league, right?
Well, they've definitely slowed down my progression, yes. But they also, the best way to describe it is I used to have to progress 10 kilometers. And that used to take a week. And now the entire trip is only 1.5 kilometers. But that takes 6 days. Right? So, yeah, they've slowed me down a lot. But also, the trip's way shorter than it was. So,
Right.
I think that's the best description I can give you.
Yeah, there's really no aspirational mapping, basically. No more 100% deli farms or.
I mean, I can make a map 100% delirious still.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
but no matter what I do with it, I will lose money. I can't maintain that content. It's not worth running.
It's not wise unless you're just genuinely enjoy the brutality of it.
I can make something super difficult, but it doesn't even maintain. It's just it burns money very, very quickly. You'll map for half a day and then be like, okay, I'm broke. I made nothing.
Yeah. Whereas before you could fracture your 100% that you could make your perfect fractured nemesis 35 quantity, does not consume sextants, and just keep fracturing that. And even though the fractured fossil would cost you like 2x, you would get that plus
12.
some right? Well, that's what it would cost to make, right, your mother map. But the fracturing fossil itself was like, you're running a 2x map every time you fractured that. But you were making that back easily.
No. I think you misunderstood. I was paying 12x a fracture.
Oh, well, when I was in trade and doing that strat, it was like 2 to 3x per fractured fossil. So you made your mother map for 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 exalts, whatever it was, however far you wanted to go into it, whether you did it yourself or you bought the fractured base, or you self-farmed through harvest. Your sexton can't be modified, or sexton can be consumed 35 quant, and then you just kept running that over and over, and you were like guaranteed to make money.
It was a burial chambers era.
It was yeah. I still have a couple of those, like quote unquote mother maps in my standard stash.
I have a few different ones with different, like 100% currency, 100% scarabs, 100% harbingers, because I thought that'd be fun for a while. I have 100% Kato one, just because I was like, I wonder how many maps I could generate. I ran like 20 of those maps with 100% map drops on them, and was like, that's insane. It lost money the whole time, but it was fun.
How many maps did you get? Like, did you take, like, did you?
Oh, it was more than 3 inventories of maps per map.
Hundreds. You'd get hundreds.
Literally over 200 maps a map.
Like out of only maps that you want to pick up, like 14 plus, or wow.
But 16's only.
Yeah, you would have everything else hidden.
Yeah, 16's only, not 14 plus, 16 only.
Okay, damn.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Wow. Yeah. I have also another thing that I wanted to bring up for discussion. Of course, I have tons of things, but someone posted a comment on the previous podcast in response to the obscurity of the user interface and the user experience, where we jokingly or teasingly, or like even with a fair bit of frustration, I'd say, said that we have no idea what's happening, whether like what the people who are in charge of user experience and user interface at GGG are doing. And someone in response to that said that that's a GGG thing, because, well, whether it's intuitive or fun is a different topic, is what they say, but that GGG has the philosophy that they value artistic integrity over the game feel, form over function. They gave us the example of, we don't have damage numbers when hitting monsters, health and mana globe numbers hidden by default, health bars hidden by default, advanced item descriptions hidden by default. We're not getting a DPS training dummy or official POB. And they want us to feel it out. And that's why there's the design choice, like channeling the Crucible, right? Sanctum sucking you in against your will was very thematic, but not intuitive. And even other things are not very intuitive. So what they essentially said, revealing under the hood the numbers and how things work is something GGG doesn't want to give us. So the user interface and experience being compromised of that is an unfortunate side effect of how they want to run and design the game. Do you have anything to say in response to that? Because I have my own take.
That's such an interesting take.
That's an interesting perspective.
True. And it's super interesting that that's the take on a game like this that generates the largest amount I've ever seen in any community of people who care the most about those numbers behind the scenes. Like you've created a community of people who want all the data. We love spreadsheets. Are you kidding me? Have you seen how popular spreadsheets are in this game? Like, if you make a spreadsheet video and it's got interesting data on it and you put it on YouTube, it'll get 100,000 views. No problem. Way more views than your other videos if you've got interesting data and a good spreadsheet to back it up. Like, we love data. But you're right, the game itself doesn't want to give us it. It's like they don't want to give us the data, but we love it. We love it.
True, and they always say like they don't want to spoil too much. They want us to go discover all these things, and if they did all that stuff, not to say that I necessarily agree, but then you wouldn't be able to make those spreadsheet videos and have the interaction that you do.
That's kind of my take on it.
Not necessarily that I agree with it, but that's a point to it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like not having damage numbers popping up, like the way Diablo and stuff has. Just more of an aesthetic aspect, because at some point we end up doing so much damage, we're just one shot in packs anyway.
True.
It would just look terrible on the game, and I just wouldn't be visually appealing. Sitting there grinding so many hours a day, looking at something that just doesn't look that good. But with that being said, I do kind of see the take of like wanting the community to kind of figure that stuff out, and then bringing the side of like sharing spreadsheets and looking at Reddit, who discovered X, Y, and Z numbers after X, Y, Z experiments are ran. I don't know. I mean, I genuinely don't really have a side on that one yet.
You know what I would like to see though is a death log. What killed me?
I would kill for damage numbers, by the way. I love them.
I don't necessarily need the damage numbers. Maybe a dummy like that you could see, because a lot of people look at their tooltip and say, "Oh, this is the damage I'm doing," and it's like, no, that's not the damage you're doing. That's the damage that the skill, the base damage with some multipliers that you have, but it's not accounting for things like your curses, any increased damage taken that you have, hypothermia.
The monster's evasion versus your accuracy, the monster's armor
yeah,
versus your overwhelmed fizz.
Yes,
Like,
so
charges, fucking everything.
So many times when I give build advice to people, or people tell me about their build, they're like referring to these estimated guesstimates in the defense tab, where it says like estimated chance to evade enemy hits. And I always have to tell them, no, you don't have 70% chance to evade enemy hits. That is an estimate based on your character level of the game, assuming based on your character level, like what enemies you're going to be facing, how much accuracy they're going to have, and how much hit chance they would have against your evasion rating. But it doesn't reflect any actual situation in the game. So please don't refer to that number ever, because that number actually goes down as you level up your character, because the game assumes stronger enemies as you level up your character. And no one knows this. Like, the game does a poor job of telling you. And that's why my 2 cents to this topic are that, you know, I love Path of Exile, and a big part of that is that there's obscurity in the right places. Like, the game shouldn't be completely transparent. A lot of the fun is figuring out how the game works. But in a lot of places, Path of Exile has needless obscurity that just obstructs the accessibility and is in the way of new players finding out the game without much gain or benefit. And especially moving into Path of Exile 2, you'd think that they'd want to make the game more accessible for new players, right? But in my opinion, in the past year or so, the game has become more and more hostile to beginners in terms of obscurity, challenge, rewards, and time needed in order to accomplish anything in the game. So I don't know. And like with the specific league that we have right now, even with the update, the way the Crucible communicates and rewards difficulty just feels terrible. Like, you feel like you're constantly forced to do full channels to 100%, which by design, like Chris said in the interview, are supposed to kill you and are supposed to be too hard to handle for most of the people. But I've yet to find someone who is happy not channeling to 100%. Like, everyone needs to do 100%, because then you get the geodes. You're happy not doing 100%.
I haven't done 100% channel since like day 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't either. I take it to like 80 to 90. 80? Yeah.
Because that unlocks a Crucible tree.
Yep. Same.
As I pick up an item off the floor, I unlock a Crucible tree, I throw in a dump tab.
This sounds... This might be just a lazy player in me, but I would like to like have a preset one so I can just run over there and click it and it just starts.
Please.
Yeah.
Instead of just standing there waiting for it to channel. Like,
especially because you have to clear the area around you. Otherwise, you have monsters running up to you and like smacking you in the head while you're like still trying to hold down left click. And you're like, wait, just hold on a second. Wait, I'm trying to channel this. Just give me 10 more seconds, please. Get time out.
Excuse me while I actively smelt something inside my map.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that was a big point in the friction section of Cute Dog's video, where he brought up all the different things where the league feels like it has too much friction, and the fact that it takes so long to channel, like several seconds, how anti-momentum that is, and so like working against how many people play the game, which is, having active flask buffs, having active charges, having other situational buffs, maybe Soul Eater. Valor, you
Rage
said
falls
on the
off.
last podcast, rage, adrenaline, all that stuff. But you also said that headhunter buffs are 60 seconds, so those are not going to fall off. Yeah, but what about the headhunter buffs you got like 50 seconds or 40 seconds ago? Those are going to fall off, right?
No,
So
but if
you
you're
lose
not
so much
rich enough
momentum.
for a headhunter, but you're playing that kind of build, you're using an inspired learning, because those are only 1 div instead of 100. Those are all gone though, because that's only 20 seconds. So they're all gone.
Well, they had to have thought of something like the impact of that, because I know some of the league challenges this league are kill rare Crucible monsters during Deli Mirror or something like along those lines. So there is definitely like awareness behind the time requirement in order to stand there in the Crucible charging it up enough to even get the rare monsters to satisfy these league challenges. Not trying to get in the conversation of league challenges. It's just something that is in there that they have kind of thought of at some point, but still we're like, yeah, let's go ahead and send it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not even sure whether the way that the Crucible like indicates difficulty should like go to 100%. Maybe like 50% should have been 100%, and it should have gone to 200%. So it feels like you're missing out. Like more that like or like have 100% at the point where you reveal the tree, and then like have it go to beyond 100% past that. So it clearly communicates that that's like harder than what you're expected to do. But the way that it says 100%, I just feel like fools many people into thinking I have to do that.
Well, why not just make 10 go higher? Well, odds go to 11.
Who has the spreadsheet on the efficiency of geo drops to percentage on the Crucible?
I don't know.
I would imagine there's one out there.
Okay, well, like I'll look at it, but like I've been told that geodes are about 50 times more common if you do full send.
If someone shows me data that tells me 80% is burning my money, I'll start running 100.
Oh,
I've got
I'm
a
sure
custom
you
death
could
model in my
easily do
build.
that.
I'm fine with it.
Oh, I think you're actually burning money, because since I've been told that the geodes drop a fair bit more commonly if you do 100%, I've been getting like way more consistent geode drops since I
get
100%.
1 or 2 geodes a map.
They also said it scales with quantity, with map quantity.
Okay, fair enough.
Like I get 1 or 2 geodes a map. Like how many more am I going to get if I go to 100?
Okay, I didn't when I did 80 to 90%, but you're probably running juicier maps than I do.
Oh yeah, all my maps are 8 mod corrupted. Like 120 quant, 48 pack size.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's crazy then. People in chat saying they do 100% a lot and got no geodes.
I have a tab full of them. I haven't ran a single geode this league. I haven't really had a reason for them yet. And I seen they were super rippy. I'm like, I'm not just going to run this just to run it. I'm going to run it with a reason behind it. Which now that I'm set forth on this goal to try to make that SST build, maybe now I do, to try to smash a couple trees together to get that. But initially, I got the Crucible tree on my shield and my weapon, and I was like, you know what, I'm cool with this. Let's run it. I don't want to like go risk screwing up the mods that I do have that now I have sort of built around having, and then end up losing it and have to redesign half my character because of it.
So does everyone know that we can like basically build a tree almost guaranteed? You just have to work backwards from the 5th tier, not forwards from the 1st tier.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to explain that. There's a number of videos out there, and there's like even a post on.
So basically, the chance of failure is like super low. You can still break it, but like not. It's super low. You want to start with a tree that has 5 nodes on it in one particular path, where the end node is the node you want. Right? So the 5th node is the node you want, and that's your starter item. The item you want to build into it must have the same path, but with only 4 nodes, no 5th node, and the 4th node is the node you want. And then you use the combine, allocate more likely to move that 4th onto the 4th position of your 4-5, because you can never lose the 5 doing that, because the other one doesn't have a 5. And so you can imprint to save it, and then you can go 4 to 5 and smash the 4th on. And then the next item has to only have a path that travels the same path, like looks the same visually, but only has 3 nodes, not 4. And then you combine the 3rd node onto your one that has 5 and 4 already, and then down to 2, and then down to 1. So you have to start at the end of the tree and like build it together. Pain in the ass.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not doing
so complicated and convoluted.
When I need a tree, I'm going to pay someone else to build me a tree. I'm not fucking doing it.
Yeah, it's still random. Even if you do it like that, there's still a failure chance.
Yes, there are still some failure chances, but it is quite common to make it the whole way without failing. Like the fail chance doing it that way is decently low. You can still brick it, so you still have to use like imprints and whatnot to guarantee safety.
This whole game's just built around the best way to mitigate odds, right?
Mm-hmm. Also,
I've been trying to find the graphic that was shared on Reddit. I can't find it. Otherwise, I would have shown it on screen. Maybe someone has the link, but I think you also can't post links in the YouTube chat, so rip that. But please go ahead. You wanted to say something better?
Just that even though I now know how to do that, that's so fucking convoluted, man. I don't want to do that. Like, that doesn't sound fun at all. Like, I now know how to do it, and I still don't want to. That doesn't sound even the slightest bit fun.
And my brain hurts just thinking about like what you just explained, let alone trying to actually do it in practice.
Yeah, like I think I explained it well. Like, it makes sense. You now understand how, right?
Yep.
But do you want to?
Nope.
Nope, don't want to. I get it. I don't want to do it.
It also requires an like insane amount into split beasts and imprint beasts.
True, which I have none of at the moment, so it's also a good point. Looks like I'm respecking my tree to Einhar. Goodbye, expedition. Hello, Einhar.
Yeah, it would have been cool if there was like a league own way to a lot of those manipulation steps, rather than it utilizing the existing split beasts and imprint beasts. I mean, I know it's cool when leagues interact with that, with existing content and existing ways to manipulate items, but I don't know. In a similar way, I thought last league in Sanctum, it would have been super cool if we could have modified the relics that we got inside the Sanctum. If the Sanctum would have actually provided us ways to modify it. I know they said specifically unmodifiable, so you couldn't have applied your currency, but if there was like actual altars or crafting benches or like Divinia vendor options in the Sanctum itself that would have allowed us to progress our relics or sanctified relics, I wouldn't have been opposed to that. I would
Initially,
find that pretty cool.
I thought that's how it was going to work when I seen the reveal and some of the teasers that they shown, because then you had certain things with the same mod but then higher, and I'm like, oh well, it's unmodifiable, so you must be able to take this +2 max fire and make it a +3, and this one's got LE overload, so there must be some sort of mechanic inside the Sanctum to enhance or upgrade your relics. Not quite.
Yeah, and in a similar way, I would have liked the forges or other ways in the Crucible to include the stuff like, give us another chance at this, or create a safe state for your item.
So I have a question. Does anyone know if channeling my item to 100% has any effect on the quality of the tree I get on my item?
No.
I don't think so. I think it's
I only
random.
ask because I have not been channeling to 100, and I just channeled 2 items to 100 to see, and both of their trees are way better than anything I've got in several days. Was that luck?
Potentially. But I don't know for sure, though.
I also don't know, and now I want to know.
And by better, what do you mean by better? Exactly.
I mean higher tier modifiers.
Having a tier 5 to begin with. Yeah.
And then instead of tier 1 having a tier, or not, I don't know how it's tiered, but instead of having a tier 2, you have a tier 1.
Yes.
Like instead of 40 life, you have 70 life.
Except in the 2 cases here, it's like 3 of the nodes are significantly higher tier than I normally see. And that's happened twice in a row.
It'd be kind of interesting if they implemented for Crucible, or like to just kind of make it a little bit more, exciting or aggressive, I guess. The geodes have modifiers, things like monsters drop 10% of the time, fractured items and whatnot. What if that instead said the items you forge have a 10% chance to be fractured? It's like an interesting way of potentially getting a cheaper way to fracture at a lower probability, obviously, in a fracturing orb, but like having different interesting mechanics like that, like on the forge as well, and not just mashing 2 things together or Crucible tree oriented, like it had 10% chance to fracture this item, or I don't know, 5% chance to upgrade one of the mods to tier 1 or something. You know what I mean? Something interesting like that. That since it is a more obviously crafting oriented league, we now have more crafting oriented, options or things that could happen.
They do have the one that says like corrupt with an implicit, which is, in my opinion, terrible to do, because there was a clip of someone doing a bow that they were trying to smush together, and it ended up bricking on them, and they ended up I think it was for EA, and they ended up getting a fire damage node on the very first node, and I think it got rid of a lot of his other notables, but now it's corrupted with a crit implicit that he can't use, doesn't matter, and now his bow is bricked. So in thought, in practice, in theory, it sounds good, but in practice, it's like, I don't want to do that because I could end up just totally bricking my item. Why would I do that? But what you said, like maybe fracturing or upping a tier or something like that, would make it a bit more interesting, rather than just smush these 2 things together and hope that I get the right Crucible tree, Crucible notables.
Well, plus, I mean, people should be, anytime, at least how I've always done it, whenever you're crafting an item, it should be not the item you're currently using, because you don't want to brick your whole character altogether.
Yeah.
So if people are bricking an item that they're working on, it shouldn't be your currently equipped one. But yeah, it introduces the idea of being able to get things like +2 arrows, thinking just from my tornado shot character, or have more access to those +1 skill gem amulets, or I guess if with Crucible it'd be weapons or shields. But either way, it introduces something that's a little bit more interesting and more drive to actually get those geodes and then run those geodes, versus just kind of having a stash tab full of them and maybe selling them for 10 chaos a pop.
What are the major differences between the regular geodes and the crystalline geodes? Because I haven't seen any of the crystalline geodes.
Actually, I don't know. I haven't gotten those either.
No idea.
What are the crystal I've heard of that. I just haven't gotten any of them myself either.
I think you only get them from channeling to 100%, or at least you get significantly more. I think they only come from the unique bosses inside maps, but you have to get like, to get the unique boss, you have to channel to 100, maybe?
I mean, I've killed a lot of those unique bosses, and I've never
Yeah.
had.
Me too. Well, not a lot, but a fair amount.
Yeah.
And like, what I just want to know what the difference is. Like, is there some? Do you get better odds? Do you give you what is it?
I know they're worth more.
They're worth more, and
Yep.
I'm pretty sure they have more downsides on them, don't they? Like, isn't it like all detrimental mods? So they're way more harder. From what I
That's saying
understand,
you can work on corrupted and mirror items with them.
but I'm pretty well. Isn't there one? No, maybe it is that. Maybe it's corrupted and mirrored. That's what it is. Because
I know that other geode is the XP one, the one that the monsters drop that are in the forges.
Oh yeah,
the magmatic ores.
Yeah,
that's the one. That's its name.
which don't really give that much XP. I feel like I get more from just doing one Crucible versus like 100k XP magmatic or however you pronounce it.
I think so too, but I can do 6 of them in my hideout.
True.
Yeah, I think it's more of a trade league thing for people who just want to go make them, sell them for people who just can't be bothered with XPing their Crucible trees. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for me to go and do a Crucible tree where the XP, the magmatic ore is the 3rd or 4th node, get all the way to that, and then it's like click one thing and it's like, oh yeah, you got one, your starter node, there you go. Or like, you know, your second one, whatever. So what's the point in that?
I need to look it up. I assume the crystalline geodes are the ones that give you the one where you can manipulate the uniques.
No, that comes on regular Crucibles. There's a line in the
No, but where you can like smash together the uniques, not
no,
like
that's
remove
on regular.
tree.
That's
on
regular,
regular ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought that was unique combine. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, contains a forge that can combine Crucible passive skill trees. That once you have your unique, from what I understand, you can just like you could throw your uniques in there, right? I don't think you need the crystalline one to smash the unique ones. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't.
No, you can only combine the uniques in the specific. I think that wasn't part of the announcement, but the regular geodes, the regular primeval thing that you get, or the regular geodes, that can have the line that it removes trees from a non-unique. But like, I don't think there's anything that interacts with the unique ones on the regular ones. Which just goes to see, I mean, like, we're all like content creators, we all play this game a lot, especially during League launch, and we still don't know.
Yeah,
either we don't care enough to find out, or the game is just so bad at communicating how it works that we still don't know. Like, either way, it's bad. Shines a bad light on the whole situation.
I think it ultimately kind of is reflective of how interested everyone is with really pursuing the league mechanic. The fact that no one's really fully certain the entire aspect of the mechanic and how it works yet this far into the league is really, I think it's reflective of the mechanic itself.
That's it. And specifically the mechanic, not the reward. The trees,
Mechanic, yes.
Super interested in the trees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super interesting. Amazing. Top tier idea. The mechanic to get them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because since the mechanic to get them requires, well, the mechanic, we just don't have as much access to it because no one's really wanting to run it very often.
Yeah.
Here, Chan says, nobody I know has ever seen a crystal geode in game, but they're so cheap on trade and nobody knows how it works. Oh, God. Yeah. Oh wait. All right. Wait, so the crystalline, someone says here, does the tree combining for other gear, corrupted, mirror, and split? You can combine mirrored items with the crystalline ones?
I believe they said that during the Q&A or RAQ or something like that, I believe.
Well, we haven't really heard a lot from GGG in the last couple of days since the 3.21.0 C patch. There's been no more improvements or changes to how the league works. There's only been bug fixes. I mean, there's plenty of them. Gotta give credit to them still like fixing stuff, which, you know, I mean,
I'm
we
just happy
expect that, but they're fulfilling the expectations.
I'm happy they fixed Unbreakable. I was losing out on like 20,000 armor because of that bug.
What that?
I went from
That was
75
funny.
to 95, yeah.
That was
Nice.
funny. And I have no idea how that could have happened. I'm curious whether they're eventually going to write like a dev manifesto or something like that. How Unbreakable could be broken.
It's Unbreakable, but it got broken. I have a theory on how it got broken. It has to do with the new masteries that give you 100% increased energy shield from your helmet and then 100% increased evasion from your body armor. Some sort of wires got crossed in the coding of those that also affected that to make Unbreakable give 100% increased instead of it being
100% more.
100. It's not technically 100% more, but yes, for sake of simplicity, 100% more.
Wait, how does 100% more differ from double?
It's not coded the same from what I understand. There's a certain word for it that I seen thrown around. Again, I'm not a coder or a dev, but this is just what I understand. It's a fuck. The word will come to me in a second, and once we're on to something else, most likely. Well, it's basically 100% more, but
what I wanted to get at is like in Crucible day 2, day 3, we got some, you know, posts in the live updates that said we're discussing potential improvements to Crucible encounters and we're rebalancing this, we're planning to rebalance that and all that. And since the C patch, we haven't really had any statements regarding the current state of the league, and we don't know whether anything is still coming. So we're not sure whether we're already in a situation where for the remaining 3.5 months that this league is still going to run, we'll see any significant improvements, which, yeah, I'm not sure how many people are still going to play this league beyond the first month if there's no more changes. But what could he easily do? What could they easily address in a patch that wouldn't take too much dev work? And I know this is a little bit speculative because we never know how much work it exactly takes to implement some things. But is there something, in your opinion, that could easily be done right now that would motivate players to play longer than the first month? We just polled chat. 64 votes said that they're not going to play longer until the end of the first month. I mean, out of 64 votes, almost half of them said, I'm going to play up to the end of the first month, and even 14% said I already stopped playing.
I got a very short list. 30 to 40% less damage on the 100% charged things. Make the charge much quicker, and put them on uniques, and let me smash rares into uniques. Like there was a bug that we were able to do it to begin with, and then they patched it. Unpatch that, and then just make it a little bit quicker and a little bit easier. That's already miles better.
I'm a huge fan of, and we talked about this before, the current league mechanic needs to be the most overpowered, exciting thing in the game. I think streamlining it from being able to, on the UI, when you first come up to a Crucible, you can set what % you want it to be at, Then
Yeah.
you just run up there, click the button, boom, it starts.
And
that way I'm not
that's
having
where
to
you
stop
get
my
to-
mapping, sit there and channel, kill off other monsters. Like it's just run up there, click the button, ease of access.
And that's
if
where
it-
you get
if
to
it is
keep
too
the cool
rippy-
channel thing.
What's
If you
that?
want to change the percentage, that's where you get to keep the cool looking channel thing. If you want to change the percentage, maybe
Yeah,
I
you-
still have to do a channel for that. But then it's locked. I've decided 80%, and I can just keep clicking every
Yeah.
map.
Even
And
make
then
it
if I
like
want
two
to go to
different
100,
buttons.
I'll have to stop and be like, work on the forge. Cool RP thingy that it does looks awesome. Okay, now it's at 100. Now every map's at 100 until I want to change it again.
Exactly.
Easy.
You can have it as two different buttons. One channels it, starts at 0 and channels. The other one is just whatever your last one was. Just click it, boom. And then the whole like more depth to the crafting side of it, maybe the 10% fracture, maybe the increase item tier. One's more UI, making ease of access, and if they really want to go in depth, add more interesting crafting stuff to the forge.
Needle, anything before I go? And maybe you're gonna guess and take away the thing that I want to mention.
Nah, you can go ahead.
Well, I mean, just give us a baseline of rewards. I mean, like, they reward the time that people are spending doing these encounters. Like, give us a baseline that's
okay,
not like
so-
gambly,
so
right?
Crucible-
Gambly like the
Crucible monsters-
endgame.
Crucible monsters is dropping items / uniques with a tree already revealed.
I mean, totally.
Totally.
Would be a huge thing to increase the playability / reward structure of the league mechanic. Maybe it's tough to say. I always struggle with like improvements on leagues, like things like this, because I don't always know what I want until I know I want it or it comes in. Like, do I want this? I don't know until it's actually there. But just dropping items from Crucible monsters that already have trees allocated, not allocated, but revealed, would be a huge jump in my opinion. And I think would keep a lot more people interested.
That would be really cool. Pick it up rares interesting again.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of us saw it or how many people in chat saw it, but within the first week, there was a massive post from Neversink on Twitter detailing like all of the things he thinks have fallen short and how he would have fixed them. And honestly, the whole thing was fucking nailed from top to bottom. And some of the things that he had was like, first of all, get rid of the ruthless loot table that they've got and make them actually drop stuff while we kill them. But then he had like some little like crudely drawn up pictures of like different reward tile loot symbols, like, you know, currency, item, scarab things on the little channel bar at the bottom. So like there would just be some guaranteed rewards for making that encounter hard. And he had them like spread out. So you'd get like one at 20% and one at 50, and then one at 90 and one at 95 and two more at 100. And so it was like, and you would just have those. Like if you channeled and you completed the encounter, some reward tiles stuff would drop. So there was just like something that was always gonna be like, here's a few chaos worth or something. Just like a reward that would happen for my time.
Doesn't need to be stacks of divines, just something other than the
2 chaos drop on the floor, and I'm happy about it because it could have been a divine, not because because there was a currency button there, and I pressed it, and 2 chaos dropped on the ground, and I'm like, next time that could be 2 divines. Like I'm gonna keep doing that. I love them rewards. It doesn't matter if it's not, or if it is only 1 out of every 200 times. It could, and there's a symbol there that says it could, and so I'd be happy about it.
Yep.
Yeah, I really agree with that a lot because, like I said earlier, at risk of repeating myself, I'm really happy when the top end rewards and there's something to chase for, even if it's like super RNG. But there needs to be a baseline of rewards, and I think Sentinel nailed this because, if we're honest, Recombinators weren't particularly better in terms of consistent rewards, right? They were a ticket a lottery ticket, essentially. Every recombinator was a chance to smash 2 items together and to get something good. Most of the times you took some relatively good items or useful items out of the economy, and that was great, right? Like, a lot of people were happy with that. Why were people happy with that? Because recombinators were not the only reward that was offered by Sentinel. Because Sentinel by itself was worth running every single map. You were looking forward to group that big pack of monsters together, release that Sentinel, get like all the reward symbols on top of the monsters that you could get, and just farm that stuff for the raw drops on the ground.
But let's be real, recombinators were the meat and potatoes of Sentinel.
Well, they were great. They were good to have, but like, would Sentinel have been as well received and as like fondly remembered if Sentinel only had recombinators?
Hang on.
Tough to say. Probably not, but
recombinators were the best PoE crafting mechanic, in my opinion, that has existed in several years.
Yeah, I love them.
It is unfathomable to me that they did not go core. I can't understand a single bit of it. They were the best, most fun, and most healthy for the economy crafting system we've ever been given.
Yeah.
I agree. And Sentinel, like, just pressing the Sentinel button was a lot of fun too, to just, go around, shoot a bunch of enemies. It felt...
How much less fun would Sentinel be if you had to channel it for 18 seconds before it released a robot?
It'd be horrible.
I mean, you wouldn't want to do it, right?
Probably not.
It even feeds into the GGG's need for, or their dream of being able to have rares more valuable to be able to pick up, and recombinators also, pseudo help toward that, because you're then looking for bases to then smash them together with potentially good rolls on it. Oh, I got a T1 spell suppress on these boots, and I got a T1 move speed on these. Like, maybe I'll recombinate them. It made rares more interesting to pick up.
Yep. So good they made magic items worth picking up.
Yeah.
I made most of my money and most of my fun picking up items off the floor that league, which is the opposite of my... But I literally have sea of not picking things up written here. Like, I make a habit of turning everything off on my loot filter, and on Sentinel League, I was like, I need to turn this back on, I need to turn those back on. I want to pick up more items off the floor. More rare items, not just currency, more items.
And they've said that's part of the vision too, isn't it? Like, Chris came on several of those streams and said they're actively trying to figure out how to make loot more interesting and like force people to pick things up.
And I was so hyped earlier in the map when I fought one of those Crucible bosses, and then I found a unique on the ground, and I actually saw, oh, it actually has a pre-reveal tree. Wait, it's a thing now. And then I realized, oh, it's a shitty helmet. Anyway,
it's the one helmet that has a tree. Yeah.
And the helmet itself is so bad too that it really needs to roll an amazing tree. And for certain builds, like, to give up my Elder helmet with conk effect and 30% more and potentially burn damage as well, like, I'm not giving that up for whatever the hell, for 20 flat life and whatever the hell else it can roll.
Yeah.
Increased duration of ailments on me.
From a trade perspective, I sold one of those helmets for like 30 chaos with like a complete garbage tree on it.
Can you actually combine the trees on those helmets actually in the same map where you can combine uniques, or is it that restricted to weapons and shields?
I have no idea. Just put it in my dump tab for 30 C.
That's a good question.
Someone bought it.
Does anyone even know what the base of that helmet is? I don't even know if it's on my filter.
It's a fencer helm.
Yeah, and the best thing about that is also, like, because that's been utilized by players in the past, this helmet specifically says the Crucible passive skill tree on it is removed if this modifier is removed. So if you brick it into a rare, it doesn't keep the Crucible passive tree.
I'm so sad about that.
That makes sense.
No fun allowed.
That makes sense on the staff or even the sword, because it only comes with one socket, and then if you could brick a 6-linked staff
it wouldn't matter if it even had mods.
You can bench the 6 links onto it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like that would be super OP. The staff and the sword I can see, but the helmet doesn't make any sense why that
I don't get
tag
it.
is
Like,
on there.
even if you brick it into the best possible fencer helmet, right? Like in the fencer helm, in by double bricking it in the, making a double influence in the temple, like the chances of it having good explicit stats are so low, and the chances of you getting a double influenced brick are like 1 in 4 outcomes.
The best you could hope for is getting like life and a res
and a suppression,
Yeah.
maybe,
Right.
Yeah.
because it's a hybrid base.
Like if you could hit like 60 life and 20 res and 8 suppression on a double corrupted helmet like that, but still kept a tree, you'd be so happy to wear it. You're like, look at my helmet, it's great.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how rare the helmet is, honestly. Like, I've only found one, but I'm fairly casual on my gameplay. More casual than usual, even this league. So I don't understand. Like, the helmet would not be that much better if you could brick it into a rare with the tree. It would just make for some really fun memes and for some like great Reddit posts and big ticket wins.
Agreed. That would almost be like Strangle Grasp saying you don't get to keep your annoyance if you brick this into a rare.
Just like its whole thing.
Plus, then we have more exciting uniques too. I mean, we have a unique that we can potentially brick for something fun. Like, why not make it?
Yep. And then I've also seen like this another clip. We watched a Gamer for Life because I had to eat something before podcast, so put up a Gamer for Life and seen like this one duo group that had like 26 divine orbs in one map, and that's just made me see that's an overarching theme in the game nowadays, that there's these extreme big ticket wins at the top end of RNG and the top end of like player time investment that you're not guaranteed to get, that you could get, but it feels like the existence of those big ticket wins is like the counterbalance to there not being like a good baseline of rewards. Like that the baseline needs to be taken down because these big tickets exist, but I just disagree. Like that, these big tickets should be there. I mean, there should be something, but the discrepancies between the big ticket, the discrepancy between the big ticket wins and the baseline rewards is just so huge, right? Like I don't think it needs to be that big. Sorry for putting the that's what she said into your head.
I got 31 divines earlier this league from an altar as a solo player. No quant, no nothing, just a normal build. That was great. But the thing is, I've now been riding that high into every single map I've launched since then. I've not hit another one at all. I've been chaining maps 12 hours a day, haven't hit a single one. But because it can happen, I'm excited every single time I launch a map. So I don't think taking them away would be a great idea. Because it's not like about total reward. It's about the excitement. It's about the fun. And the fact that it can happen makes it fun. Even if I don't hit another one the whole league, there'll be a little extra excitement launching every single map from now until the end, because it could have a divine altar in it.
Yeah, by that same token, it could also drop you a mirror as well. Or maybe blood or a headhunter.
I'm going to see 60 more divine altars before I see a mirror.
That's true. I've only gotten one divine altar since they made that a thing. And it was last league. I think it was in the Stave and Totem only league. And it was in a really poorly rolled map. And I ended up with like 2 or 3 divines. And I was so depressed. I was like, no. Why didn't I roll this map better?
I mean, that's usually one of the things that I look at whenever I'm going into a different currency generating strategy is, what's the ceiling look like? What is the thing outside of like the obvious mirror drop or something like that? But what is the ceiling that I'm like possible more I have an actual chance of achieving by running this particular strat. What is the ceiling for it? And then what's probably going to be like the average loot coming out of it as well from the day to day. I think that's something that most players need to consider that are playing trade when choosing whatever strategy, Ratless strategy they go toward.
Yeah, the floor and the ceiling. What's the worst case scenario? Am I at least going to break even? And am I going to bleed money until I hit this jackpot? Or am I going to be able to self-sustain when I do hit that peak?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that nails it. Floor versus ceiling. Like, I just think the ratio is off there a little bit. And not just in this league, but in the game in general, in many aspects. Not everywhere. I think, like, for example, heisting has good baseline rewards and good ceiling rewards, right? I think if you heist, even if you don't hit a big ticket, you're getting consistent rewards out of it.
Well, that's just because it feels so terrible to do. They had to make it
but you gotta
rewarding.
heist.
If it wasn't that rewarding, no one would be there.
Exactly. I haven't stepped foot in. Actually, I did. I went to Rogue Harbor in the beginning of the league because I realized that my heist locker wasn't there, and I'm like, oh, I must just have to go talk to, the lady, and then run a contract. I ran a regular contract, not the quest one, because I didn't feel like doing the role play thing and running around talking to everybody. I ran back, and my locker still wasn't there, and I was like, you know what? I set the affinity for my thing while I was there, and then I just left it alone. I haven't been back since.
I found that also terrible. They did it since patch it, though. In 3.21.0 C, they did make it so that it's unlocked when you first visit the Rogue Harbor.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I now have the locker in my hideout now too.
Have they ever
go there?
Explained why the quest ones are still in existence? Like, is there a reason to run the quest contracts other than to get the 10 chaos unique contracts down the road?
Yeah,
there's an absurdly large amount of those quest ones.
Which wouldn't be a problem if the designated heist locker would actually allow you to store them there.
Yeah, even that would be wonderful, but you either run it or drop it back in the map. But like,
those quest ones are the reasons that I never, ever, ever, ever go to the Rogue Harbor. I will not open a single rogue thing because I don't want those quest things to drop all the time, and so I just. Granted, I don't like heist very much to begin with.
Yeah, me neither.
But like, sometimes I might go doing like an hour of heist here or whatever if I felt like it. Like, there are times when I've been in a mood that I would have done that, but I know that absolutely bones me for the entire rest of the league. There's just going to be these quest contracts dropping constantly, so I'm not going to do it. I will never visit the Rogue Harbor in a league again.
You can hide them on your filter, how you used to hide the reagents from Arch Nemesis. You can just make them fully transparent.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, I'll play around with that.
Yeah, so you can't hide them, right? Like,
right.
You can just make them invisible practically.
Yeah. Which sometimes you can still pick them up if you're like just quick clicking and picking things up, and you look in your inventory, you're like, wait, how did I get rid of this?
Heist got me again.
They got bamboozled again.
Yeah, I for the life of me cannot. I mean, I understand that at the end of the quest line, you have access to the unique contract, but even like, at least from a trade perspective, there's like a 1 to 5 chaos contract that no one's buying anyway. So like, it just seems, I don't know. I just hope they get rid of those at some point.
Yeah, or like boil them down. Like, you don't need as many as there are right now for the progression.
Yeah,
but
that's
like,
true.
most importantly, I mean, Heist's been in the game since 3.12. We're at 3.21, like 9 leagues, almost 3 years now, or like at least closing in on 3, maybe 2.5. Because Heist was like Christmas League 2 years ago. But damn. Like, why do these things still take? I mean, I know that's because they're quest items and you can't stash quest items and they're local to your character. You can't put them onto another character. But with heist quests, I believe you can even drop them in your bestiary, and then you can pick them up with another character there if you wanted to transfer them to another character.
Wait, really?
I think that's an actual thing, but you can't put them into your stash.
You can't transfer them, but you can throw them into your crafting bench and your harvest bench.
Yep.
Wasn't that a thing that you could transfer them
Because
to
why
another
not?
character?
No, I
I'm
don't think
pretty
so.
sure I've done that once.
Not that I'm aware of. I wouldn't have an issue with Heist as much if it didn't feel so bad in the beginning. Like leveling and gearing up your rogues in the beginning and sitting around. Same thing with like Crucible, waiting to channel, like waiting for Tibbs to do his little dance and open up a door. It's like for 20 seconds or whatever. It's like, come on, dude. This is ridiculous. Once they're geared out and your rogues are leveled, it doesn't feel as bad because they're somewhat quick with it. But getting to that point, this feels terrible.
That's why deceptions are so good, because then there's no doors.
No doors on the way out. You just run. Plus, Gianna gives you the cheap reveals. Yeah.
The one time I did like proper go into Heist was in a BPL. And that's like, there was like a team on that BPL team that like helped me gear stuff out and like figure out what to do. Once all the rogues were geared and like well geared, and I was running high level content, that was actually fine once I got there.
But then takes a while
I experienced
to get there.
it and I was like, that's too much work to get to that stage.
Exactly.
It was miserable the whole time until it was finished, and then it felt good. Nah, pass.
Yeah, agreed. And sucks because like Heist, especially from an SSF player standpoint, there's a lot of really good stuff you can get. You get all quality gems, you get replicas, you get a lot of 5 and 6 links, especially early. You get a lot of just raw currency, but geez, I just don't want to go through it.
I think they actually nerfed that this league too. The 6 links from them, if I'm not mistaken.
I think what they said was the replicas don't have the same socket weightings, but the experimental items, like the enchanted armaments, I believe still do. I think it was the replicas and experimental items that they nerfed the socket weightings on, not the enchanted items. If I'm remembering correctly.
Heist also does, even if you don't care for the role-playing aspect, but you probably agree, Deedle, Heist has some of the best lore in the game.
Oh, yeah.
It's really, if you want to delve into that aspect of it, it's really amazing.
The voice lines were really well done in Heist, I agree.
Yeah.
And the whole story behind it, you trying to save the kitty and everything, and then going and, getting your revenge on the twins. And
remember Quinn actually, I was watching a Quinn stream, and he had a pretty good take on the kitty quest line, as far as like the twins killed her cat, but now you just go through and murder all these people because they killed your cat. I was like, man, it's kind of true. You're going through just murdering all these people because they killed a cat.
Well, and for the loot.
And for the loot, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very aware of the time, and Valor has said in the beginning that he doesn't have all the time today, and we usually aim for 2 hours, but then go over 2 hours anyway. So before we round things off, is there anything that you guys want to still bring up for discussion? Is there any comments that you've seen in chat? Does chat have any questions that you still want to see answers to? Then we could do like one quick round of that before we do the shout outs and the conclusion.
I want to know how many people are going to be moving straight to D4 when it launches.
I mean, 60% of the people who responded to the poll, which was above 100, I think we had 122 vote, and 60% of people either already quit or are planning to quit within the first month. So,
just to be clear, I don't mean like permanently. I just mean like,
yeah,
it's gonna launch at the end towards the back half of this league, surely.
Full-time D4 player, let's go.
Yeah.
Personally, I have no interest in Diablo 4 or really anything Blizzard does, but I know I'm in the minority on that statement, so I'll probably still be playing PoE till the end of the league.
I'm with you on that take. Absolutely. I've been burned by Blizzard. I'm not going to reach out into the potential fire again.
I mean, if that's your thing and you're gonna enjoy it and you like Diablo as a series and you enjoy playing it and you're gonna have fun, by all means. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just saying from my perspective, and I'm not interested.
I also hate Blizzard, but my love for Diablo in general outweighs it. Therefore, I will be playing it.
Fair enough, and I'll be following the discourse around Diablo 4 with great interest. I just have no interest in playing it myself.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'll probably be watching streams. I do follow a lot of PoE creators, and I know most of them are going to be probably playing D4. So I'll probably have it on my other monitor while I'm still playing PoE. That way I can get the meat and potatoes out of what came from D4, and then shortly after have a new league start.
I'm definitely curious too. Like that's why I'm going to be following. I'm definitely curious to see what it brings to the ARPG genre, what it brings to the table, and like how it's going to impact the entire scene and the development. You know, maybe, and the chances are not astronomically low for that. Maybe the D4 will have some things that are so good that other ARPGs are going to be looking to copy that or make their own version of it, whatever it is, right? And yeah, and undoubtedly it's going to put all eyes on the ARPG scene and drive a lot of people who are looking for a little bit of more in-depth experience to games like Path of Exile that have a little bit more depth and offer years and years of content.
It's already happened from the beta. I've seen an influx of so many new players coming in and saying, I'm new and I don't understand this or understand that. It's like, yep, you get used to it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But
do you think D4 is going to introduce any, new concepts to the ARP to the genre, or do you think it's going to bring more of PoE aspects into it and then just kind of call it new? And that's not a shot at D4 by any means. It's more of a.
The only thing I see so far is the way they're dealing with unique powers. I actually quite love. So the idea of uniques, like for us or in the past, is that they have some special ability, right? Like that's the idea of a unique. Like the best instance I have of a unique example right now is like Chevron's wrappings, despite it's not being popular, but like you get the idea, right? D4's version of that, they'll have their Chevron's wrapping that drops, but it's essentially just a rare item that's been made into a unique by the power it's been given. And you can destroy that item to pull the power off, and you can put it on an appropriate gear slot of a different rare. And so that lets you sort of still have, gear diversity and upgrades, because when you get 10 levels, that piece of gear is now trash, but you need that power. And a good rare drops and you want to use it, you can delete your old one, rip the power off it that you were using, and put it on a new one. I like that. I like that quite a bit.
So like as if you could like rip the chaos damage does not bypass ES shield from a Shavs and put it on a rare that you found?
Yes.
I like it, but I see a major balancing problem with PoE in that regards. Like,
well, obviously that doesn't translate to PoE one-to-one. Obviously, you couldn't just do that with Shabs, because you can't give me like a 900 ES Val Regalia that has the Shabs, right? We're not.
Yeah.
No.
This game is designed around that being a thing. Like that's how they're going to do. But I just think that the idea of that is super interesting. Like that's a really interesting way to get your unique powers that doesn't like limit gear and progression, especially like as you're leveling and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. And that answers my question as far as like possibly new concepts introduced into the genre.
That's the new concept that I've seen so far. That's like I've not seen that approach be taken to given unique powers before, and I quite like it.
Yeah.
You think that's kind of what they were trying to do with Crucible trees in a sense?
Yeah.
Except that it was only on weapons and shields and that one unique helmet. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I have to gamble whether I can move it or not.
Yeah, you can't. Well, I mean, that's kind of the PoE way, right? It's like pull the RNG slot machine, see if you win. for better or for worse. I'm not saying it's a good nor a bad thing.
I mean, the concept itself overall, I actually really love Crucible, like the idea of a passive tree on weapons and whatnot. How it's executed is a little bit different. But the concept behind it, I think, is really interesting and cool.
Oh yeah, I think there's tons of things to love also about the Crucible. I do actually, after like learning to know them a little bit, I like the unique bosses that it spawns. You know, I like that there's difficult encounters. I just think that the rewards are way off, and the communication about risk reward ratio is like very, very limited from the game side. You have to put a lot of research into it. But yeah, I mean, we're all still playing. We're all still planning to play a little bit longer. Maybe some of us longer than others, but you know, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. And I feel like this is Warren's saying it every single podcast, but it's like we wouldn't be here having this conversation if we didn't love the game.
True.
But yeah, seeing that there's I think no big questions in chat that I want to highlight. There was someone asking about how to not get one-tapped on your SOS poison build Balor, but maybe you want to address that on your own stream.
Yeah, that's not for you.
Yeah. But yeah, what can we be hyped to see in the near future from you guys? I know, Scottaria, you haven't uploaded a YouTube video in a while. Is there going to be more YouTube content coming, or are you focusing on live streams?
Yes.
Well, not call him. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
Shit, what's happening?
No, there was really cool content in the past, but it's like a while ago, and I was like, "Do you have something cooking?" You know.
But yeah, you're right. It's been a couple leagues since I've made some YouTube. I think it's because I'm really still, despite having a bunch of YouTube videos from the past, I'm still kind of finding my niche. As far as like what the average content that'll be regularly posted. But I do intend on making more YouTube videos in the near future. And at the moment it's going to continue to range between build guides from currently running, current solo currency making strategies, because that's what I mainly do. I do hang out in voice chat with my buddies, but I play mostly solo. But trade league, so I've noticed that kind of does well with a lot of other players that just kind of play on their own, but they're trying to figure out how to make currency. I'm trailing my niche. It's exactly right. I'm trying to get to that brutal side. Right. And then live broadcasts, I am never on a set schedule. As I keep putting every league, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna be live every day, from this time to this time, and then it ends up being like, damn, I just want to vibe, listen to some broadcasts, and grind out maps.
Right, sounds good. But people can find you broadcasting live. You
yes, on Twitch primarily.
All right, great. And as for you, Deedle, is there any big things that people should be looking forward to as they tune into your podcast in the coming days?
A podcast? I don't have a podcast anymore.
Sorry,
we used to.
Did I say podcast?
You did.
My brain is at the point, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I can't.
I would like to bring
properly.
it back at some point, but yeah. Mainly just grinding out HSSF. I'm working towards Maven, and then trying to still screw my wrists up by scour chancing a bunch of steel kite shields, and hopefully just not dying in HCSSF and crafting cool items, And my YouTube has also fallen off, to point out that fact, but YouTube's tough, man, when you're like streaming every day and like trying to budget time when it's like I could stream and like have real-time interaction with people and play the game, or I could sit and work on a video and have delayed reaction with people and do that. And it's like, man, it's like the instant gratification always pulls me in, and it's like, but I know in the back of my head, like, I should do the YouTube stuff, but then I don't. It's like the angel and the devil is on my shoulders, and it's the devil wins.
No, I know that. Like, also feel like as a content creator, you're in many cases, you always feel like you're behind. You could always do more. There is more that you need to do in order to be as successful as you deserve to be. And especially, like, I think speaking for everyone, we're all pretty much one-man operations beside, like, some outsourcing. Maybe Balor has someone who does some videos for him that he bullies into slave work, right?
Yay, video editing.
That helps. I had
thumbnails.
someone helping me out. Like they just offered. They said, "Hey, I can attempt to, edit down some videos for your Gauntlet stuff." But they had real life things also attack them recently. Not attack, but come up for them, and they haven't been able to do it as much. But it did help out a bit having that. Like I still had to coordinate stuff and like stream mark and clip, and like we still had to discuss about certain things, but it didn't take as much time because editing down things it takes quite a bit of effort and time.
But YouTube, you also really have to be like on your game
Consistent.
too when it comes to the scrutiny of our community. So like if you got some numbers wrong, if you're doing
True.
whatever X, Y, and Z strategy or whatever, you really have to make sure that you're on it, or else that video is gonna turn into a certain kind of show pretty quick.
Yeah.
It can't be advertising a subpar build.
Because if you say something that's accurate but it's not accurate, 4 days later you still get in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah.
That as well. You have to alter the title to be outdated or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, this is the prices on the items, and then they triple in price because of the video, and you're like, I didn't.
Oh yeah. I'm luckily not that big to influence the market like that. But I mean, if I make an insane build at some point, it could happen anytime. But like what I wanted to say, Deedle, is in response to what you said, not finding the time for YouTube and all that. I've recently like tried to do like the first 2 or 3 hours of my stream on days that I just stream on YouTube, and like have a clear outline for the video, have like some premise, like something that I want to do that day, and maybe a question I want to answer. Can I do this or that in 2 or 3 hours? And then follow up on Twitch with a stream where I do whatever, because I think that helps the algorithm, and it's also interesting to watch a live stream on YouTube as long as it is clearly defined. A lot of times when I stream in the past, I just go live, press the button, and do whatever. And now this helps me like think about what's the overarching goal that I'm working towards, and it helps create a little bit of a story that people can follow. Just one thing I wanted to quickly bring up because it's been talked about in chat. Someone asked, did you guys talk about Explodey Totem? And no, we didn't, because what is there to say, really? It's like a blatantly OP interaction. That's great that it's there and that people have something fun to try around. It's like one of those things that Crucible enables that is super interesting. Did it need to be that strong? I don't know, but it's cool that people have something like that. But much else is there to say?
I mean, I always think it's fine to have really insane builds for the league, like because of the league mechanic, which is going to go away in 3 months anyway.
Or at least balance down to a more suitable state. I agree. Yeah, I don't see an issue with having OP builds. The problem comes in is when people get too attached to them, and then they do go away / nerfed, and then they feel like they're being singled out and GGG took my build. And it's like, this shit happens all the time though. Like, the only constant in PoE is change, really.
Yeah.
From that perspective anyway. Oh, I look at like Herald stackers from back in the day.
Yeah.
Like they were stupid OP.
Plus it does play into the retention side too. Like whenever you get a build that just deletes all content with one shot. I mean, I've played builds like that before, and they're just not like, I don't play them very long. I play them for like a couple days, and it's like, all right, sweet, I can delete Uber Eater, and then now it's no longer fun because, you know what I mean? Like I want that project, that's something to like drive toward. So I don't know. I guess some people enjoy doing that over and over, but it's only for 3 months, 4 months, however long the league is.
True. Wait, so I already said what people can expect on my YouTube and from my content a little bit. Balor, what can people expect from you? Is there anything that you're working towards? Big YouTube comment?
I mean, not specifically yet. I'm still trying to grind up money. I want to go full MF. It's I just really like MF. I haven't done it in like 2 leagues. I've skipped MF the last 2 leagues. I miss it.
Did you make a color when that was a thing with the Archnam mods?
No,
The loot goblins.
that's not
Right.
how I want to play.
A Slayer call.
I'm so happy they got rid of that.
Yeah,
Shame.
me too. I
Yeah,
love
well-
MF and I hated that. Everyone hated that across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the people that were doing it and
Yeah.
profiting didn't like it.
I know teams of people that were making like 2,500 divines a day just sitting on TFT going to cull for everyone. And they were like, this is fucking miserable. I hate my life. I don't want to be here. There's like nothing about what we're doing is fun.
Yeah, great. So I think that rounds things off. Before we open up another topic that will keep us here until we hit the 3-hour mark, I want to thank you guys for coming on. It was great to have this discussion. I think we had a lot of fair points, good criticism, while not delving too much into negativity and keeping a positive outlook on the game that we all love. And I specifically want to shout out Captain Lance and Cute Dog for making their respective videos. If you guys in chat haven't seen them yet, check them out. They're not very long. The Captain Lance video was less than 10 minutes. Cute Dog is, I think, 16 minutes. So if you watch like Balor on 200% speed, you're done with both of them in less than 15 minutes. And yeah, shout out to them making the videos. Check them out. They provided a lot of cool talking points for the podcast and helped me make the topic list and helped me sort my own thoughts in regards to the league. So that's great. And then there's another podcast coming up, of course, Saturday, again at 9 p.m. GMT, really early for Balor. I know it's shit, but it's hard to coordinate these podcasts. We're going to have 3 boys on from the Max Roll GG roster. We're going to have Palstron and Crouching Tuna and MB Extreme. And well, I mean, it's going to be a pure softcore trade podcast then, no SSF points. So we're probably going to talk all about currency making strats, about strong meta builds, and all the fun stuff that you guys probably want to hear about. And if you want to know when the next Fated Connections is, it's always at an address that's called fated.fyi/next. And it's listed in the live stream section of my YouTube a couple of days before, or at least the day before, so you can click it and follow it. And I'll share the link on Twitter. So follow all these things. We got our Twitter handles also here on the underneath the names. Balor is Balor Mage everywhere, so he doesn't need one. That's why he's the CEO of not picking things up. And well, until the next podcast, which is already in 3 days. Talk to you soon. Bye bye, and have a wonderful time farming. Don't quit. You're so close to getting that big ticket item, guys. The big lottery ticket win. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get that divine altar. You're gonna get that. Yeah, just one.
You got it.
All right. Bye bye. I'll see you next time.
See ya.